60% of parents said that they think it's more important for their kids' happiness that they have a good career and a good paycheck than if they were to get married and have children. I want you, when you grow up, to be the same faith that your family is. This is what God has intended for us until he comes again in his glory and brings us home. God built this thing as this blessed little, for lack of a better word, system to make sure that there are more and more people in heaven that he gets to rejoice with one day in glory. And it's nothing crazy. It's nothing extraordinary. And we're missing out on it when we don't teach our kids that this is the glory of life. Any secular happiness survey in the world will tell you that the happiest people on the planet are those that are married with children, not single people with jobs.
Well, he's at Oxford.
He's in Oxford,
Yeah, but then he goes to Hillsdale sometimes. He teaches
adjunct
adjunct
there.
there.
Funny. I thought he taught in Texas every now and then too. Maybe
He might, yeah. Actually, he might teach at the same place Louis Marcos.
Yeah, that's what I thought maybe, but
yeah.
Does Marcus, is he involved with that? We do a little bit of stuff with it with the Montgomery Library. They got Montgomery's library, that guy that's building like a kind of a simulated Christchurch Oxford on his Texas property and has the big library in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I can get the name from Steve Burns, but I always forget it. But Dr. Montgomery's library went there, and so Adam's gone down there to teach, do apologetics. Our publishing guy, Steve Burns, has helped kind of get the Montgomery Library there. And so, because Montgomery at his house in Stuffelheim, France, had like a 35,000 volume library.
Oh, wow.
That all went to this place. So...
Are we live, by the way, Bennett? Oh, we are. Okay. So Scott Keith, back on the line.
I'm happy to be here. Although it's very gray outside.
Yeah, it's Minnesota. We had a couple days ago, we had a really nice day. I think Monday is supposed to be really nice.
I got a guy that works for us who was in Michigan for 17 years, and he lives in Big Bear now, Big Bear Lake, California, with us, and well, not with us, in the same town as us. And it's always sunshine. Like, it will get snow for a couple days, but then even on the day that it snows, you're probably going to get sunshine. And he talks about living in Michigan and how February, March used to just depress him so much. And I'm always saying, well, it's so depressing. It looked fine. Then I came out here last night and then this morning, and I was like, I think I get it.
Yeah, the grayness weighs on you.
Yeah.
I think once a year we do a deep dive of like, what would it be like to live in Colorado Springs? And like, we'll research an area and we're like, wow, wouldn't that be nice? But
I think Big Bear Lake has, somebody can fact check me on this, the most uninterrupted days of sunshine in the lower 48 of any sort of like populated area.
Really?
Yeah.
And you've got mountains.
It's in the mountains. We're at 7,300 feet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's so it's like a mountain valley. You come up to right around 9,000 feet and then drop down into Big Bear Valley.
Okay.
So you're in the valley, but it's high enough that, there's just sunshine.
Yeah.
All the time.
320 days.
Look at that. Fact check on the spot.
I think it's the inverse in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Now, do you cycle?
Mountain bike.
You mountain bike, okay.
So, but last couple of years, gravel too. So, kind of the best of both worlds. I don't like road biking because of the cars.
Yeah.
I'm not a very good technical mountain biker, but I can climb pretty well. So I raced for years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, see, I'm the opposite. So I do road biking and, I've got a Wahoo trainer now.
Yeah.
You heard about those?
I can't do trainers.
Yeah.
I swim, and people keep asking me because there's not a pool in Big Bear, so I end up driving to go swim. And even my wife, she keeps hassling me about getting one of those like endless pool things.
Yeah.
I just can't. I run too. I don't run on treadmills.
Yeah, I can't run on treadmills.
I cycle. I don't cycle on trainers. I swim. I'm not going to swim in an endless pool. So.
See, if you live in flatter areas, that's where the Wahoo really comes in, because you can do. There's one route I'll do. It's like 1,400. It's like a 1,400 foot climb in 30 minutes. So you can just pump it out, and the Wahoo trainer is accurate. So we have no flat areas. Yeah,
no flat.
Yeah,
literally no flat.
Yeah.
So when you mountain bike in Big Bear, you're always going up or you're always going down.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it is. So
yeah, flat's tough because you have to have a really good willpower to keep your watts high.
I agree with that. Maybe it's because I've always sort of lived in hilly areas. I'm horrible at flats.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the grind. I can't do it. Climb, I can climb.
Yeah.
That's
Same
about
here.
what I can do.
Yeah. I did a race in Lake Placid, and that was, I don't know, I think it was like 4,700 square foot or 4,700 feet of elevation change or climb throughout. And yeah, it was an awesome race.
I did a Xterra off-road triathlon. So when my kids were like mid-age kids, in the early 2000s kind of time, mid 2000s kind of time, I raced in the Xterra mountain bike triathlon. It was a series, and you could qualify for nationals and all that kind of stuff. And so we lived in Carson City, Nevada, and I did that. And I do probably 5 or 6 races a year, qualified for nationals once. But I remember I did this Park City, Utah, and it was, you would swim down in this lake and you would climb up to the top on your bike from down in this lake. And it was all uphill mountain bike to the top of the ski resort parking lot. And then the run was like up to the top of the,
so everything was up.
The one run, and then you'd come down. And so in triathlons, you can usually wear a wetsuit because normally for the swim, the water temperature is such that it justifies a wetsuit. But if it gets over
72 or something,
72,
yeah,
it's no wetsuit race, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we show up for packet pickup the night before, and they're saying, they're just announcing it. No wetsuits tomorrow. The lake is 73. No wetsuits. So I'm like, that's fine. So if everybody's not in a wetsuit, no problem, so I leave my wetsuit at the hotel, come to the race the next morning, and the water temperatures drop 4 degrees, and everybody's in its wetsuit, and everybody but me and like one other dude that left his wetsuit at the hotel is in a Speedo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is horrible. And my strategy on a swim is always just to get to the front. Just start at the front, go as hard as you can, let the people that are going to pass you, and then you end up in your group, right? Mm-hmm. But I was so intimidated that everybody else had a wetsuit and that I didn't, that I did what I never did, and I kind of went a little back and to the left and had a horrible swim. I'm usually pretty good, even to this day, pretty good at the swim. I'm usually going to come out the top 10% of the swim. I'll come out. I come out of the swim and I have been beat up the whole time trying to get past people because I started with the slow people, just trying to get past people. I come out of the water, my wife's standing right there, and she's like, what the hell happened? You're 2/3 back. I'm like, no wetsuit. And so I started throwing my stuff off, and I'm just angry at this point. And I get on my bike, and it's all uphill. Mm-hmm. And so I was out of the water like 135th or something like that, out of like 200 people. And get on the bike, and this is all climbing. And all I remember from that entire mountain bike ride is just on your left, 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 on your left. Get to the top of the parking lot, and my wife's there again. As I'm coming out the bike, she's like, "You're number 3." I'm like, "Oh wow, holy moly!" And then we get on the run, and I got short legs, so I got passed by like 5 people on the run. But,
see, I always try to.
But I did qualify. I qualified for nationals
on that one. Yeah,
because I was even with losing 5 spots on the run, I think I was still second in my age group.
Okay, yeah. See, I've done the 70.3 series
for
the triathlons, and for that one, it's not when you finish; they take the total time, right? So I always stay back on the swim because I'm a weak swimmer, strong biker. And because I like that feeling of passing people on the bike, right? Like it just keeps your motivation for the longest portion of the race.
I did that day for sure.
Yeah.
I don't always have that experience, especially when it's up and down. Like it's on an up and down mountain bike race for me, it's just classic. Like I will be with this group of guys. I'll pass 6 of them on the climb. We'll start going downhill. Those 6 guys will pass me back. We'll get to the climb. I'll pass them. Go to the downhill. They pass me.
It takes a lot of time going downhill to get comfortable. Yeah. Watch the Tour de France and you watch those guys going like 50, 60 miles an hour down.
Like,
yeah. the first one I did, I was training for the 70.3 and I did an Olympic.
Yeah.
And no open water experience. I was, training in the pool. And I did an Olympic in the Hyannis Port off Boston because we lived out there. And so ocean swim, right? So about a week before I do my first.
And you've never done this before?
I've never. So I do an open water swim with my wife. So she's sitting there and, she's pregnant with her first. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go out. I'm going to swim across there and come back. And that's about a mile.
That's kind of funny.
And I went out maybe 100 yards and I'm panicking. Like black water, right? You open your eyes.
I love it.
I just completely panic.
I love open water swim.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah.
So I had a coach at the time. So I'm like, I need to go out with you and like do one. So he kind of helped me a little bit. So then we go to the ocean one and it was a train wreck.
Well, for people that are listening, there's open water lake swimming, which is one thing.
That's one thing. Yeah.
Sometimes I've done races where it's open water river. That's another thing. And then open water ocean. And even depending on the ocean.
And Hyannis Port is a whole different pretty thing. Rough out there.
It's a whole different.
That's off Cape Cod, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole different thing.
Oh man.
Like you just can't. If you can swim in a lake, don't think that means you can do an ocean swim.
Yeah. And for me, it was I can swim in a pool. So that means I can swim in the ocean, right? Yeah, the answer was no. I thought I was going to die. There was a couple points where I was like, real. I've got to swim to survive right now. Like not even. But then the other thing was I was like scared of sharks. Then I was scared of drowning. So then I stopped.
You'll be fine in a group.
Yeah. I wasn't in the group anymore.
You're by yourself.
I was the guy lagging behind.
You're probably fine anyway.
But they spotted 9 great whites off the coast there that weekend.
Yeah.
So
just keep going.
I have never done another ocean swim.
Can't worry about sharks.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. I did a couple years ago. They canceled it now, but I did the Xterra in Laguna Beach. I did it 2 years in a row. The first year that I did it, they usually time it pretty well to what the surge is doing. Mm-hmm. So it's a Crystal Cove, beautiful beach in Laguna Beach. And I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden at this race start, there were 7-foot overhead shore breaks. So
Jeez.
A 7-foot overhead out 100 yards, whatever. You can duck dive that, get under it, whatever. A 7-foot overhead shore break, it's really hard to get under it because it's literally breaking on the shore. So even if you dive through it, if it breaks on you, it could push you all the way down and you're going to hit the ground. Again, out 50 yards, 100 yards in some deeper water, no big deal. You just go under it. You're not going to get in the washing machine or anything like that. So we start, it's a mass start. It's a run-in start because of the waves. And again, there's like 100 people. They're timing it off like every 2 minutes. They have more lifeguards out of this thing than I've ever seen at a triathlon. They probably have 7 lifeguards out on boards, which that's a lot. So they hit our age group, hit the whistle. We all, like 30 of us all go in, and all of a sudden it just starts breaking. And I swim in the ocean a lot. And so, but and this doesn't happen to me that much anymore in the ocean. I get worked. Like as soon as I go in, shore break, boom, I'm on the bottom, pop up, hit me again, and boom, I'm on the bottom, pop up, hit me again, boom, I'm on the bottom. But I just keep working through it, tink, 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 work through it, get out past it, do my swim, it's fine. I come back in, and one of the girls that used to work for me at the university was there watching, and I'm running out, and she goes, almost everybody quit. Like almost everybody just got hit 3 times by the waves and just walked in. She's like, only 5 or 6 of you just kept going. Like, cause it can work you.
Yeah.
It can work you. But I love ocean swimming. It's not always like that. There's a place down in San Diego, down at La Jolla Cove, where you can get in. It's usually pretty mild to get in. It's amazing because there's sea lions everywhere. Mm-hmm. And literally the sea lions will chase you out. And then as you're coming back in, surfing the wave coming back in, they'll be surfing next to you. You have this like 1,000-pound animal, like 6 feet from you.
That's wild.
Surfing in the waves with you. You're walking in, there's like sea lion here. You're like, hey, bud. Bud.
They won't mess with you though?
I wouldn't. I think won't mess with you is probably strong. I think on the whole, they don't. So lots of people swim there. It's like a big, it's one of those places like around the world, people will come to train for big ocean water swims at La Jolla Cove. Mm-hmm. Like if you're doing the the crossing, the channel crossing. People come train at La Jolla Cove. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. If you ever come down, we should go swim La Jolla Cove. Say hi to some sea lions.
Yeah, we'll see.
You can get a pretty easy mile in. Like you can come at the cove and come out the beach and have somebody pick you up.
Yeah,
get a pretty easy mile.
Yeah, I've given up kind of on swimming recently, so we'll see if I get back into it. It's been 3 years, I think, 2022. So yeah, about 3 years since I've raced. So we'll see.
Well, once you can swim, you can swim. So
yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The reason I haven't been racing is kids, which brings us to your book.
I guess the reason I've been racing more is because I'm now to grandkids.
Yeah,
They take a lot of your time, but not in the same way.
Yeah. So you've got this new book out here, Being Family, passing down the faith through the generations. So what led to you writing this book?
That's a really good question. So I wrote Being Dad about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. It did really well. It got me a lot of opportunities. It sold pretty well, and it got me a lot of opportunities to do speaking gigs. Especially at men's groups, obviously Being Dad, at men's groups. And so I've been speaking on being dad regularly every year for about a decade now. And, after like the third year of doing that, you'd go out and do a Being Dad gig, and inevitably somebody would say, well, when are you writing the next book? And it was either like, when are you going to write the book? Eventually when I had grandkids, when are you going to write the Being Grandpa, or when are you going to write the this? And honestly, I didn't really have it in my head to write another book of that kind. I always figured that at some point I'd put out a version of my dissertation on Melanchthon, or write a Melanchthon biography, which I kind of did with the Meeting Melanchthon little book, just because nobody knows anything about Melanchthon. And but I didn't actually think I would keep doing this kind of thing. I thought I'd kind of go back to more what my education actually is, Reformation theology. But as kind of time went by, and you just end up speaking on it so much, you kind of keep up on the research regarding family and fatherhood, because it's always changing a little bit. And then men, I ended up doing some things on friendship, when sort of a couple years ago, the big quote unquote friendship crisis was a big thing among men. And then I ended up doing some stuff on the work crisis with men. And then recently, what's really been hitting me is sort of the demographic quote unquote crisis, with just the lack of children in the world, and sort of what that is going to do to the world as a whole. And I'd say also sort of what it's doing to the church, especially churches like ours in the LCMS, that for years have kind of relied on births and baptisms to maintain sort of their numbers, and how when people just aren't having babies, we notice it big time. And so I started doing some reading on that kind of thing. And then I was telling you earlier, I don't remember the exact year, but at one point I was asked to do a plenary at one of the higher things, or the plenaries at one of the higher things. And I honestly didn't know what to do. Like, cause I don't speak to high schoolers very often. Funny enough, I'm going to Finland to speak to high schoolers for 5 days, but I don't usually speak to high schoolers. And so I didn't know what to do. And I just said, well, I can't really do Being Dad with high schoolers. That's not going to work. And I don't really think they care about Melanchthon. I guess I could just do some straight apologetic stuff. But then it occurred to me that, hey, you should do some stuff on the family, because one of the things that happens is that our kids are sort of acting like, our kids in the church are being raised and sort of acting just like the secular kids, where all their priorities are not aimed at, classically Christian priorities. They're aimed at really the secular ones, like get educated, have all your experiences out, go have your fun, save money, get a job, get financially secure. All these things happen, and they're not sort of told, the first several things that even in the pre-curse version of the first chapters of Genesis, God says to both Adam and Eve, to give them purpose in their life. He says to Adam, you need work. Here's a job. He says to both of them, get married. The two will become one flesh. And then he says, and be fruitful and multiply, and literally says, fill the earth. Right. And we have not in the church been giving this message over specifically to our kids. We've sort of been, I've lately said, as I'm doing this in speaking gigs, we kind of do this by implication. We kind of think that they'll see that we're married and that we had kids, and thus they'll see that and go, well, I should get married and have kids. But we never say to them, hey, you should get married and have kids. We say all the other things. Do good in high school so you can get a scholarship, go to college. We say, and funny enough, they do it. Like in our church specifically, they do that. Like the rate of college attendance for people that are LCMS is pretty high compared to society. But the birth rate's not high compared to society. It's the same, and it's kind of just proof that if we tell them to do something and it's a priority that they should do it, they might do it, or they will. And we just haven't been saying this. And so I wrote that, and it's me. So one of the things I learned from being dad is that when I wrote Being Dad, I thought it was all going to be, this is all gospel, baby. Like, I was like, Father is a picture of God's grace. What could be more gospel than that? And then this is classic on Luther's phrase that it takes a lifetime to become a master of law and gospel. And you go out and teach it, and you look at the crowd, and like 20% of them receive it as absolute law. And you're like, oh, wow, that one didn't occur to me. And so you understand that absolution has to be a big part of this too, right? That anytime you say, hey, you're not doing this, you should do this, that you may think you're saying that as encouragement, right? And it should be encouraging, especially to the Christian. And for many of them, it will. But that's also the law at work on them, and that you have to incorporate in there. And when you fail at this, because you will, just know that Christ's death and resurrection covers that also. So there's a lot of that in there too. I don't want to just ever put that out there as do these things and it'll all be okay, because it oftentimes isn't going to be okay. We still live in a world corrupted by sin. We are still corrupted by sin, even as saved Christians. And at the end of the day, if anything we do is going to be useful, it's going to have a gospel-oriented character to it. And so I really hope that comes across in there too.
So what are some of the effects that you've noticed in kind of your research on the ways that families operate, or, the passing on of faith to the next generation, as our value system has mirrored that of the world around us, and as families get smaller?
Yeah. So the argument in the book is for you, it's going to seem like a pretty basic argument. Like you're going to read it, and there's nothing in there that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is mind blowing. I've never heard this before, right? Because basically what I'm saying is, hey, this is what God intended. He intended that if you're a man, you get a job, right? So why do you get a job? So that you can be rich, so that you can be successful, so that you can drive a Maserati or Porsche 911, which I would very much appreciate if I drove a Porsche 911. But that's probably not why he did that. He did that, one, to give you a calling. There's usefulness involved. Adam was sitting around the garden lonely and feeling useless, and God says, hey, you should take care of these things, and I'm going to bring you the animals, and you should name them, and you can have dominion over the earth, and this is going to be one of your callings. Okay, Adam starts he knows now that God has called him to do something, but for what? Well, eventually he also creates for him this helpmate, Eve, out of his own rib. And now all of a sudden, this work that he does has an end in mind, and that's to serve his neighbor, who is his wife, Eve, right? And he looks at the two of them. He says, Eve, this is your husband, this is your wife. Now, the two of you are going to leave your father and mother's house, and you're going to come together. You're going to become one flesh, and you're going to be fruitful and multiply. And now all of a sudden, all of this work has meaning, because God doesn't need it. Like, God didn't need Adam to name the animals. He created them. He could have named them. God didn't necessarily need Adam to take care of the garden. He made it, and I bet you it was, for the most part, pretty self-sufficient. But he did this for Adam. And in turn, when Adam does it, he's intended to do it for his neighbors, Eve, and then his children. And that's pretty normal. Now, as we get this into passing on for you and I, it kind of means the same thing, right? You get a job, a work, reasonable work that makes a living, but you don't get that just to have it. You get that so that you can now support your family, right? Well, in order to have that family, you have to get married, and you have to have the kids. But you just don't get married and have the kids just so that you can support them with your work. There's this whole thing that drives you, which is your faith in Christ Jesus. And that's what brings meaning to everything in your life. And it also brings meaning to your family life. And so you want to raise your kids in that same faith. In our world, how do we do that, right? You bring them to the font of baptism as early as you can, really. In our case, we're big baby baptizers around here, and we think that this is the means of grace, that God comes through this baptism to actually, through the power of the Holy Spirit, bring faith and forgiveness to this little crying thing that you bring, as Luther said, that you drag kicking and screaming to the font.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? Well, then, you bring them back Sunday after Sunday, and you keep them in the church where the word is proclaimed over them, where they hear before they know what it means, they hear the absolution pronounced by the pastor every Sunday. They hear the words and the gifts of God given over in the sermon. They hear the words and the gifts of God given over in the readings and in the introit and in all the different parts of the service. They hear, before they're even taking communion, they hear it being given to their parents. Eat the body of Christ given for you. Take, drink the blood of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ shed for you for the forgiveness of your sins. And they're brought in this faith, and it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just for you and your family, this just becomes life, right? But then you want us at some point draw some connections, right? To this is what God has intended for us until he comes again in his glory and brings us home, that we make more little people that he will have in glory with him one day. And that you do that by having the children in the first place, bringing them to the font of baptism, raising them in the faith and in the church, bringing them to confirmation, sitting by as the pastor blesses them during their confirmation, encouraging them to do the same. They get married in the church. They have kids and your grandkids and baptisms, and it all kind of starts over again. And it's all this, God built this thing as this blessed little, for lack of a better word, system to make sure that there are more and more people in heaven that he gets to rejoice with one day in glory. And it's nothing crazy. It's nothing extraordinary. It's water and word, bread and wine, body and blood, forgiveness of sins over and over again. And we're missing out on it when we don't teach our kids that this is the glory of life. We missing out on it when we teach them the glory of life is to get paid the most that they can, to just think about their career. One of the stats I note in the book is that when surveyed, something like 60% of parents said that they think it's more important for their kids' happiness that they have a good career and a good paycheck than if they were to get married and have children.
Really? And that's broad, right? That's not just Christian? That's
broad.
That's still pretty
but
profound.
that it's absolutely false. Like any secular happiness survey in the world will tell you that the happiest people on the planet, by self-declaration, are those that are married with children, not single people with jobs. And so we've kind of adopted all of this and made it back. We put the secular priorities first and done our prior biblical priorities by implication, and it's hitting us hard. Now, there's a whole societal aspect of this where everybody not telling their kids to have kids is going to have, Christian or not, you're going to see the societal implications of this in the next. I mean, at this point, everybody's talking. I used to feel like a lone wolf on some of this. Everybody's talking about this now. It's going to have huge societal implications.
The demographic winter.
Yeah. Everybody knows it's coming. Doesn't really feel like anybody wants to do anything about it, but talk about it, but whatever. But in the church, we can honestly say, like, if you're looking for, a lot of people could say, so what? Fewer people, humanity is a plague on the planet. It's going to end itself. Great. That's all the way. Great. Whatever. That's not humanity is not a plague on this planet. Humanity is something that God created to not only be here, but to have dominion over and to take care of and to exist in. And he sent his son to be incarnate on this planet. To redeem it, Paul says it's redeeming it along with us. And so, I think we've just sort of we've thought about this a little incorrectly, and I want to point it out while also saying, listen, because I'm going to go out and say that, and a bunch of people are going to go, boy, I raised my kids the wrong way. I'm going to, okay, yes, maybe, but good news, Christ's death and resurrection covers even that also. So just know that. My audience for this, ironically, I think would be more young adults who aren't married yet. Yeah. In a lot of ways.
Yeah, it seems like there's kind of a couple of things that weave together. I mean, one is the work one's interesting that you comment on. I think Dorothy Sayers, she was kind of big on that. And what was she, like 30s, 40s, Bennett? Dorothy Sayers?
Yeah, she's contemporary of Lewis.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know she writes some really good work on vocation, and she makes that point that work is a gift. To your point, it was there before the fall into sin. It's not a result. Now there's thorns and thistles, right? So it's become more difficult.
Yeah. But work has become difficult. Not work was a curse.
Correct. Work preceded the curse. So work is something that should be joyful, and it remains joyful if it's for enjoyment of the craft, which is going to be a gift. Right. And you can see that for someone that does woodworking or who loves their job, right? Like they enjoy working with their hands. And then the other one is in service of the neighbor. And certainly, I don't know if it's capitalism per se, but like the capitalistic, hyper-capitalistic mindset has made work all about gathering more things for yourself. Yes. And that's where like when Jesus is talking to the rich man, right? Yep. He's like, well, give away your things. That's not like a punishment. What Jesus is identifying, like the 7 deadly sins do, like this is a deadly vice that has you, like you're consumed by this. In one case, it's like this allows you to follow me. In the other case, it's like you'll actually be more happy if you can give this away.
That's an interesting encounter with that guy. I mean, can you imagine walking up to the creator of the universe and looking at him and saying, all these I've done since my youth?
But Jesus doesn't even challenge him on that. Like he gets to the crux, right? He's like, but
Jesus had to be like just the kind of, we think of him in a lot of ways. I think of him probably as like one of the wittiest, quickest people you've ever met, sort of unflinching, even when making a point. All these I've done since my youth. Jesus is like, yeah, okay, great. Now go sell everything that you own and follow me. Like it hits that guy with the one thing that he knows that guy cannot do, just to absolutely devastate him with the law. But the point is valid, that we conceptualize work in terms of what we get out of it. And we want to get more out of it. And in the world in which we live, there's a part of that that's totally, completely understandable, right? I don't want my time to be unrewarded or wasted. Paul talks about that too. But that can be overdone. And if we see that as the only reason why we work, we're really missing out on the deeper impact that the Lutheran doctrine of vocation brought the world during the Reformation. Not just brought, this little tribe of Lutherans over here. This changed the world in a substantial way, and gave the world a gift that said, hey, you can actually serve God without just going into holy orders as the only mechanism to serve God. You actually serve God by just doing the normal stuff of everyday life that serves your neighbor. Holy cow. That's within the church of the 1500s. That's a mind-blowing concept. That's a mind-blowing concept. We kind of normalize it today, but it's not normal. Like there are many traditions today. I think even a lot of evangelical traditions that wrestle with that, that idea that this is the gift here. The gift is you get to serve your neighbor. Your neighbor gets to serve you. And in so doing, you're serving me. Not because I need it, but because these people I love that I put into your life, they need it. Mind blowing.
So why do you think that that value system shift has so seeped in? And, I think a good example, maybe you've encountered this as well, but, you'll interact with someone whose kids are grown, right? Sure. So maybe their kids are in their 20s or 30s or whatnot. And, they'll kind of say in passing, especially, if you're a pastor or something, they almost feel like they kind of have to like, well, yeah, like they're not going to church. I wish they did, So they'll say a sentence there, but then they'll always say, but, and they're like, but he's doing really well. He's enjoying himself.
He's got a great job.
He's got a great job.
He's traveling the world.
He got to go and Belize or whatever, and then they go on.
Here's a picture from his surfing trip that no person should ever be able to afford, really.
So why do you think that is? That there's certainly some concern there, but the concern is certainly dwarfed by this more bristling pride that my son or my daughter is kind of rocking it by worldly standards.
Yeah, well, I think there's a natural inclination that every parent, no matter how they feel deep down, is going to find a way to say, I'm proud of my grown kids because of X, Y, and Z, even if things didn't turn out the way that they want. I mean, one of the places you see this is with children of fairly like culturally conservative parents who grow up to be homosexual or something. Mm-hmm. You know that that's not what they wanted as they were raising their kids, but then turns out that's the way their kids, quote unquote, are. Mm-hmm. And they find a way to say, oh, but at least they're happy. Mm-hmm. Or something
like that. It's like a defensive mechanism
because
to justify.
I think if you admit, boy, my kid did not turn out the way I wanted, you're admitting you failed. Mm-hmm. And so that's hard. That's hard for people. Yeah. And I have a lot of grace for people that do that, because I have 3 grown children, and I know that even when everything turns out pretty great, it didn't actually all turn out the way you wanted it to or the way you expected it to. Mm-hmm. Right. And that there's very little of that at the end of the day, once they're out of your sort of total care, that you can actually control. Mm-hmm. Like you don't get to control. You get to control less of that than you might think when you're raising your kids. So let me just say it that way. So I've got a lot of room for forgiveness for that kind of thing for people, and a little bit of understanding for why they do it. Although it's unfortunate. The bigger one that I see is that, and that I don't relate to, is just sort of people's fear about talking to their children about what they actually want for them. Mm-hmm. That's where I think a lot of this comes back to.
By children, you mean adult children here?
No, or even as they're growing up. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, I think you could even say things like, I think it's wrong and sinful to grow up and be homosexual. This is against God's will. Is it forgivable? Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a sin like every other sin, and the death of Christ covers that. But you can't walk around justifying that sin in your life by saying, well, this is the only way I'm happy. Mm-hmm. But what if the only way I'm happy is to be like a 9/11 car thief? Mm-hmm. Like I just watched a movie on this. It's called No Man's Land. Pretty great movie from the 80s. Nobody actually turned out happy in that movie, though. And that's at the end of the day, the reality. And I think you have to be willing to say to your kids, and it's not going to always turn out this way. In other words, you're going to have to, the words of absolution might have to come off your lips just as fast, but this is what I expect. This is what I think is right. Mm-hmm. This is what I think God teaches on the subject. This is what he wants for you. And he wants it for you because at the end of the day, this is where you'll be most satisfied and most likely to stay in his house and receive his gifts and have children that receive his gifts. And this is why he wants this for you. You can explain it, but so many people of both children and adult children that I talk to are just, again, you said you can sense it didn't turn out the way they wanted, but they're unwilling to say that to the kids. Mm-hmm. I think you got to be pretty honest with your children, both as they're growing up and as they're adults.
And to your point, that starts early, and I think this is maybe getting worse just by the read I have from parents that are older than me, our grandparents and such, and they look at, and because one of their critiques will be like, there's just not discipline in the house, and then you can kind of view it, and you'll see things like kids are doing things, and the parents are like, oh, they like to do this, I don't like it, but it's like, well, you're the parent. They spend way too much time in video games.
I just heard
you can step in and say 30 minutes. Like you have that. Not only do you have that control, you have that edict given to you to be the one to manage that.
I'd go one further. It's not like, you bought the video game system,
right?
It's yours. It's not theirs. Like you may call it theirs, but it's not theirs. I just had this video game discussion with somebody that they said, I just don't know how to, he just spends so much time playing video games. I just don't know what to do about it. We've just lost the battle, so we just let it go. And I'm like, is this happening in your house?
Yeah.
Like, for better or ill, I would often tell my children, especially when they were being, selfish or entitled, nothing in this house belongs to you. Mm-hmm. This is all mine. I give it to you as gift. Just like, hey, do a little fourth commandment stuff here, and just sort of reflection on nothing in this world belongs to us. This is all given to us by God as gift, right? When some of it is taken away from us, We don't bemoan God for that. We understand that it was his in the first place. Same thing in this house. Nothing in this house belongs to you. This is all mine. You have it by gift. And that at the same time, I don't have to keep giving it to you if this gift is harming you.
Mm-hmm.
Like if this is a gift that harms you, I can take it away. So what would you do in a situation where you can't get your son to stop playing video games? Well, that thing would have been in the trash in my house in a blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
A blink of an eye. I used to tell my boys specifically that if they ever, we lived in Carson City, Nevada. I'm like, if you ever get into what I would call like the deep life-ending trouble, like bad friends, drugs, just all that kind of scene. And I have a sense that it's taking you down a path that you won't be able to recover from in your life. I will sell this house. I will move you to the most remote, all of us to the most remote portions of Wyoming where there is only a wood burning stove to heat us. And your day will be consumed with conversations with me and splitting firewood to get ready for winter.
Mm-hmm.
And you will not see another person until I'm convinced that you can handle interactions with other people, because there's nothing more important. Well, church not, but there's nothing more important or a bigger calling in my life than to make sure you're okay, and that you make sure you are raised in the faith, and make sure you stay in the faith to the degree that I can have an impact on that.
Mm-hmm.
And if I just sort of let you go down these paths and just get worried about it and fretful about it and just not step in and do something about it, I'm not doing my job.
Mm-hmm.
And
hurting everyone in the
believe they
process.
believed me.
Yeah.
I believe they believed me.
Well, I mean,
I meant it.
They
should
that's
have
kind of what
believed
Jesus
me.
talks about when he's like, pluck out your eye. The
Yeah.
point is like, are you willing to go to, and he's obviously not advocating for those listening for you to pluck out your eye, but the point is like, how far are you willing to go to deal with this issue? And if the two options are, we sell our house, we put ourselves in a worse economic situation, we move to, in your example, we move out into the wilderness or whatever, we do that and we save the kid, or we don't do anything and the kid ends up in bad company and, addicted to alcohol or drugs or whatever, or which one is the better path? And it's pretty obvious.
Can
do
always
this extreme thing and fix the issue.
Houses can always be repurchased. Careers can always be salvaged. Money can always be replaced. The gift of children and the faith of children really, is something that needs to be tended.
Mm-hmm.
Much more so than the other things that we tend to tend, house, career, money, 401ks. Now, I'm pro all those things.
Right.
By the way, I'm probably more pro like nice cars than most of the people that listen to this show. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll also give those things up very quickly if it means anything really important is being infringed or damaged.
Yeah. I've had the conversation with Ray Lean. We're in full agreement with this. And I think I've even mentioned it to Pastor Duncan, and our kids are 6 down to 9 months, or 4 kids. So it's not a situation for 2026 or 2027. But I've said, okay, if we run into a situation, and you can hear these stories, right, where, the kid is kind of going off the rails in different areas, some of these societal pressures. I'm like, if we sense that any of our kids are going into this, I will put in on the spot and say, I've got to take 9 months.
Yep.
You can call it a sabbatical. You can let me go. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. I'm going to take that, and we're going to go out. We're going to get an RV or whatever, and we're going to go out to probably your neck of the woods and Wyoming and Colorado and up into Banff and Jasper. We're just going to be in the wilderness. We're going to be camping. We're going to be walking. We're going to be spending time as a family, and we're going to do that until we can see that we've regained our footing, and that is done. So, that's. We've got that down. That is a law in our household.
The flaw in my plan is you probably need to be in driving distance of a good congregation so you get word and sacrament. But
that's true. Yeah,
I was just trying to make the point.
Yeah. Well, I assume that would be part of the No, I think that's really well said. So let's go. I want to get to, because I know you get to grandmothers and mothers, grandfathers and fathers, and some of this as we kind of move on through the book. But one of the other aspects you talked about with kind of just the size of the household. And I've been really interested in this, that I think there's obviously the edict from God to be fruitful and multiply. I think the last time you were on, you even talked about that, a
was
little bit.
Working on the book.
Yeah. And I commended you. I mean, you mentioned, you don't mind me saying it again. You said it last time, but you said, I regret my vasectomy.
Oh yeah, totally.
And that's,
I don't walk around with a lot of like, I should have, or I shouldn't have, maybe 2 or 3, but that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, and that's kind of that generation, right? To where those ideas weren't being taught. It was just kind of the normal thing to do. I've heard many other people say that, as well. But it seems like, from my observation, we've got 4 kids, but they're all young, but when I see bigger kids, let's say a family of 4 versus a family of 7, right? Both can be beautiful. I mean, we've got beautiful examples in our congregation of all sizes, but they're not the same, right? There's a completely different.
Oh yeah.
And I think that has natural law ripple effects.
Yeah.
In that, I mean, I've got a handful of examples. What are your thoughts on some of the implications of?
Well, it's kind of funny. There's my son Caleb has 4 kids, 5th on the way.
Yeah, I heard that.
And they the outside view looking in towards them is always kind of different. I'll say one of the things that's kind of funny is I started out this book by saying, at one of our own conferences in Northwest Arkansas, I started out a talk by saying, I want all of my kids to have at least 3 kids. I want them all to live within 3 miles of me. And I don't really care what this does to their psychology or whatever. I think this is important, and on and on. And I said, I don't care if their happiness was never my goal. That they stayed in the faith was the goal, that they became meaningful adults, that the boys got meaningful work, that they started, and all this. And I was shocked at the amount of flack I got, came down from the stage, walked out, break time. How many people walked up to me and said, just because this is how it's working out for you doesn't mean that everyone can do this. And again, it's one of those things, like Luther said, where you kind of think you're maybe being funny, and you really, because I came hard with the gospel in that talk too. But how many people just absolutely receive that as just law? I mean, it's one of my things where I say, preachers, be careful when you think how the Holy Spirit is using your words, because you probably don't always, right? And so you pair that, that's Christians, are all Christians. These people traveled to come to a conference to hear Christian stuff. These are real Christians and they're like, wow, I can't believe that you said that. That's maybe for you, but that couldn't work for other people. That's one of the things that kind of got me realizing that even within Christianity, the priority set was already so far gone and different than it is. And then you have kind of this experience with Caleb, where anytime I tell people I know, again, people that worked at the university with me, at Concordia with me, they're Christians. They're deeply Lutheran, many of them. And you'd say, yeah, Caleb's having his 5th kid. They're like, 5 kids? 5 kids? Who could have 5 kids? This is the one that gets me too. How could you afford to have 5 kids?
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, see how it works is the youngest one wears the next oldest one's clothes.
Yeah.
They don't all need their own room. You can kind of even in a small room, build bunk beds and stack them like cordwood.
All 4 of our kids are in one room.
And it's fine.
It's chaos.
It's fine. I just recently heard.
I was up 5 times last night because of those little hooligans.
I was Rich Lowry on the Editor's podcast just gave this little anecdote where he said, I grew up in a small house. He goes, I guess I never really feel like it was a small house, but I remember when friends would come over, they'd say, man, your house is small. And I'd go, it is? He's like, and me and my 3 brothers, we grew up in this house. And I remember that with our house. I raised my kids in a 960 square foot house. Now there was 5 of us there, 1 bathroom. We never thought of it as a small house for the most part. I mean, you're always doing organizational stuff, right?
Yeah.
The stuff gets in.
Yep.
But I remember my daughter had a birthday, and one of her friends came over from the Lutheran school there that lived on the west side, one of the doctor's kids, and looked at my daughter and goes, your house is really small. My daughter was so offended. She's like, what do you mean my house is really small? My house is just my house. So I think there's all sorts of these dynamics that come in, and we are just so acculturated to not, there's no large, Midwest, there's more. By me, there's just no large families. And when you see it, it's kind of like, holy cow. But then there's this beautiful dynamic that comes with it. My good friend Dan Dean, who teaches philosophy at Concordia Irvine, has 5. He lives in Santa Ana. In order to be able to afford to have 5, he lives in Santa Ana. Now, Santa Ana is not wonderful parts of Santa Ana, okay? But there are some parts of Santa Ana as well, right? Lives in a very small house. But they're an amazing family. Like his wife, Alyssa, they homeschool. His amazing mom. And those kids are growing up to be like self-sufficient and dynamic and intelligent and so much more so in a lot of ways than sort of your average Orange County where I live family with 2 kids who thinks, well, our current house is only 3,000 square feet and we're having another kid. I don't think we can make it here. We better look up the street for this 4,000 square foot house because how are we going to have each one with their own room and our room, and you need to have an office, and we have to have a guest room because no one could ever sleep on the couch when grandma comes over. And it's like, what are we doing here? I just don't understand. I mean, that's where we are, that dynamic. I love that you said you have large families in your church. I mean,
yeah, a couple 6s, a couple 5s.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We do too with Caleb, but that makes up like half of our church. But it's awesome, but we don't see that very often down by us. Now, that's great that there are still pockets where that's happening. I'm very encouraged to hear that. We don't see that very often. I mean, I can think of Dan Dean, Caleb, maybe 1 or 2 others that I know, but that's it.
Yeah, I had a friend out in New Hampshire. I mean, he was probably, I knew his kid, so he was probably, I don't know, his 50s or something like that, but he owned a company. And he had another guy that was a friend of his, and they owned a company. And I was talking to him at Oktoberfest, and they both said that when they hire, they will not hire someone unless they grew up in a household of at least 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have got hired. But my dad died. My mom did. Not a fair shot at my mom.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe they had exceptions. But I mean, their point was that, if you have a lot of kids, or if you have a lot of like brothers and sisters, you have to work with other people all of the time.
Yeah.
And you can't just like do your own thing and feel like you have ultimate control and then get perturbed when other people step into your space. Yeah. You just have to learn to work with other people. And they said that was key for them because they need people that can work well with others, that can be malleable and, adapt.
Yeah.
And
I'm not, at the end of the day, if for whatever reason, like you decide to have a smaller family, 2 kids, whatever, that's awesome. We just shouldn't look at people that have large families and go, why would you do that? I mean, it's kind of like when you talk about motherhood versus fatherhood. One of the things when I was doing fatherhood stuff all the time, people come to me, well, are you ever going to say anything about motherhood? And I'm like, that's not my job.
Yeah.
There's about 10,000 people out there saying how great mothers are. There's like 4 of us saying how great fathers are. Just let me have this one. All right. And I kind of feel the same way like this. Like everybody has small families. If they have a family, if you decide to have a family at all in 2026, God bless you. You're doing the Lord's work. Like, honestly, like if you're in your late mid 20s to 30s and you've had any kids at this point, God bless you. You're doing the Lord's work. But please don't look at the people that, Caleb and Eric are 30 and 31 and are having number 5 and go, why? How? What? Give me a break.
Yeah.
Like that was completely normal. Now this is normal. And let's just say the time span between the two has not been that long. And we can't act like for 10,000 years, people only had 1 or 2 kids and just said, okay, well, that's great. Yeah. It's just not how it's worked. We've flipped the script on this. It's like everything. We flipped the script and we now act like the new script has been the script for 10,000 years. Like, yeah.
It's like 1 or 2 generations.
No, this hasn't been like, gay people getting married. That's new. Transsexual stuff. That's new. No families. That's new. And I'm going to stop acting like it's not new. It's new.
Yeah.
It's new.
And it is a good point. Like you said, it's not, we know so many families that have 2 kids and those kids are rock stars, right? Like the kids they're well raised. So it's not a success means X amount of kids.
No.
But it is a mentality and an approach.
Sure.
Right. Of,
now I'd say intentionally having no kids.
Yeah.
I would, every case by case, again, lots of forgiveness and absolution in there, but I'd be curious to have the conversation. I'm always curious to have the conversation with people that say we've decided to have no kids. So I always kind of want to know why.
Yeah.
Why? inevitably, it always seems like it's sort of the secular priorities have overtaken anything else.
Mm-hmm. And asserting a little bit too much decision making.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, there's wisdom as your family grows, and
that's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, like my wife's had some C-sections, so like you have to like take certain things into account, and and whatnot. But yeah, I mean,
that's what led to my vasectomy. Is my wife progressively nearly lost her life sort of after every kid.
Yeah,
like, Caleb was C-section. Joshua was sort of in the room, kind of quick surgery. Autumn was wheeled out of the room, losing blood surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Me terrified.
Yeah.
Just like didn't want to lose my wife, like terrified.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's things to wrestle with. But yeah, if you say, well, we're not even going to have a kid, it's like, well, did God give you that decision? Like, are there these circumstances?
Here's the thing. This is what I've been saying lately is that kids are not a choice. Like the only thing that allows us to treat children as choice is sort of modern technology.
Mm-hmm.
And most of that's pretty evil.
Yeah.
And, we need to stop thinking of children like they're one choice among a bunch of other choices. They're not. They're the natural outcome of a man and woman coming together and becoming one flesh. It's this is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we've only, through mostly pretty sinful processes, been able to stop that. Now that stopping that has been completely normalized too. That's what I'm saying. This is a brand new thing in the history of humanity, and we've normalized it. Like it's been the thing that's been going on, birth control and all this, IVF stuff and all that. I don't want to get into like deep details of all the ethics of all that, but at the end of the day, we act like we've completely normalized everything there, as if it's been the normal forever. And then when somebody acts like, hey, this is maybe a recent innovation that we should have thought about more, why would you say something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, because it's got some pretty awful outcomes off many times.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're 100% right there. Let me pull your book over here just so I can... there's a couple of things as I was kind of scanning through this. Full-time work, full-time vocation, chapter 3.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting with where you talk about the crisis of male inactivity. So that kind of builds off of kind of that work and then the responsibility of the Christian household. And then do you get into, in this chapter, I know you were mentioning it kind of before, but also just, the shift with that male inactivity in the workspace, how we've shifted to a female-oriented workspace. Yeah,
so basically, at the end of the day, our reality in the U.S., and you could generalize that to the West in general,
mm-hmm.
Is that women in the workforce have basically saved the workforce in a sense. If you were to remove women from the workforce today, the rates of unemployment would surpass those of the Great Depression. And that's weird to think about. Now, some of that has probably been like, how many sort of make work jobs do we have because the workforce can so easily be doubled now with men and women? I don't know about that. The data I looked at didn't really wrestle with that. I think that's too much of a political hot button to hit.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that on the whole, and more young men are deciding not to work, not to go to college, not to go to trade school. Everyone's like, oh, of course I'm not going to college. You're going to trade school. Not to go to college, not to go to trade school, just not to be productive.
Mm-hmm.
Period. The end. Like it's phenomenal. Most people that don't know that even at, like Lutherans don't know that even at the Concordias, the male-female ratio is about 70-30.
70 female.
Yeah, female.
Yeah.
30% male. And that's all, if you see that at the college level, that's reflected in the workforce too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about the workforce too. Now, there's residual effects in the workforce because of baby boomers and Xers in a sense. But as that sort of tolls out, you're going to see more and more that what we've seen now at the collegiate level for the last decade or so will play out more and more in the workforce too. And it's been about 70-30 in colleges for quite a while now.
So why do you think that's become the case, and what are the implications of that?
I mean, there's been a boy crisis for a long time. I mean, we've been schooling boys like they can be educated just like girls.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, does that mean that you should have boys' schools and girls' schools? Maybe or maybe not. But as the education system becomes more female predominant, in other words, when you have 70% of school administrators are women, 70% of teachers are women, whether through intention or not, it's going to become more feminized. One of my grandkids goes to normal school. 1 out of 7 goes to normal school.
Normal, like public school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's good reason for that in his case. He was premature, and he's kind of really premature, born really, really premature. And he's kind of, he was having a hard time learning to read, like in a homeschool environment, and it sort of helped to have some immersion stuff. Whether he stays there, I don't know. It's right up the street from his house too. That made it really easy. But I'll sometimes drop him off and or pick him, which drives me crazy. I mean, this is an example. It drives me nuts. Like it's right. His house is right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, just walk.
Yeah.
just walk. But the school doesn't like that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, so you pick them up. And I'll go, when I go running too, I kind of come down that way and I make my right turn where his school is. And on the board outside, you get to see like what's happening at the school that day. Well, there's pajama day, there's dress like your favorite animal day, there's like, what's your favorite dessert day, all these days. And every time I run by it, I think, yeah, I'm sure the school is doing a wonderful job, but all I see on your board every day is the influence of women on the education here. Mm-hmm. I can tell you for a fact, I went to Lutheran grade school, and my male principal fought against dressing up on Halloween day, and good for him. And good for him for fighting that fight. Because whether pajama day is good or bad, a male principal didn't sit around one day and think, man, we should have a pajama day.
Yeah.
It would be great if I came to work in my pajamas today. Like that's not what happened there.
Yeah.
Right. And so whether it's by like intention or just attrition, that whole system has become more feminized, and boys have not responded well to it. The whole culture has become more feminized. Hence, he can't even walk home from this feminized school because of the feminization of the culture that might see a 7-year-old walking 2 blocks and think, what's that 7-year-old doing by himself? Oh my gosh, somebody's going to steal him. All of that, feminized. Boys aren't responding well to it. And when boys don't respond well to it, they just kind of withdraw.
Yeah.
They just kind of withdraw, right? The workforce stuff, I haven't seen anybody do any real work on this, but I wouldn't be too surprised if kind of the last 5, since 2019, of sort of the war on men in the workplace, because of whether justified or not, often cases sort of sexual assault claims and whatnot scares people off. I mean, and again, they withdraw. When they're not successful young, when you're anyone, boy or girl, it's not successful young over and over and over again, it's hard to be convinced that you could once be successful at anything. And so it's kind of easier to just back out. And I think that's a lot of what's happened with men in the workforce. But the point I bring up in the book is that the first thing God tells you if you're a man is that this work is going to be good for you. I've made you such that this work is going to be good for you. You're feeling this void because you need something to do. Adam, here's the something to do. I say all the time that men are better men when they have a job. Yeah. They just are. Like, unless you're one of those really rare few who can kind of work for yourself, be entrepreneurial, be completely dedicated to a goal that's self-driven without somebody telling you what time to show up, what time to clock out. And by the way, that's rare. I
think it's 2%.
Yeah.
They did a study on that, or at least, that's oriented towards entrepreneurship.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, so you can just make the caveat that for everybody, 98% is almost everybody, that for every man out there getting a job, going and getting a job makes you a better man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think boys need to be told that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's just obvious in that, like, my wife can fill time.
Yeah.
Like if, like, and she works 2 days a week right now. And so but like, if she's home,
this
right.
is a source of some consternation between my wife and I.
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
But like for me, I need, like, if I've got, my wife's visiting her grandmother this week down in Florida. So, when I'm with the kids, it's really difficult for me if it's just like, we're just going to be here.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're going to the library, or we're going to go, if it's nicer weather, I'm like, we're going to drive to the zoo. Like, this is going to be tough, but we're going to, like, go do a thing. And
Everybody
I can wrap my
grab
mind
a shovel.
around.
We're building a fence in the backyard.
Yeah, like, there's got to be a thing that I'm going to do, and I'm going to go do that thing.
I agree.
And for guys, if they just have open time, we're going to get into mischief because we're going to have to find some adventure to justify the next 3 hours.
Yeah,
and
idle hands are the devil's playground.
Yeah.
Turns out it's true.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to affect women in the same way. It's not that
No, I mean, he was looking at
but...
Adam when he said, boy, this isn't working out well for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what makes you think what Adam was already thinking about?
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah. So so you've talked about some of the implications, kind of why, how do we,
when you take them out of the workforce too, men are typically the innovators too. And, if they are going to be entrepreneurial, even that 2%, it's going to be men. But when they're sort of removed, you have fewer and fewer of those. If you have fewer and fewer children in general, it's only, I think, 3% of the population are the innovators.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons we've had so much innovation sort of in our lifetime is because of how many people there were, that 3% number is bigger, right? Just as a whole number. Not even as a per capita number, but just as like a whole number. You have more of them, you have more innovation. You have less and less than that. Men out of the workforce, you're going to have less of that too. It's not hard to see, I think, that the feminization of the workforce has brought in sort of the DEI stuff that's driving everybody crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to be a part of that? I mean, I know a lot of guys that can just say, yeah, I just can't do that training.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking about sort of like the inclusion, blah, blah, blah training that they have to, I can't stand it. I can't do it. And I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm. How do you recover? Because it seems like one of the issues too is just, you mentioned boys schools and girls schools.
Yeah.
That's historically the norm.
Sure.
So whether or not, I mean, I don't have hyper strong feelings, but I do know that it seems like we don't have places where guys do things just as guys in normal life. You can seek it out.
That's tragic, man.
But that does kill that masculine spirit. Because if you get a group of 4 guys and you introduce one woman into that space, the entire culture changes.
Sure.
In the same way that if you got 4 girls and like, if my wife's with her friends or something, and if I were to like pop down and be like, hey girls, what's up? It's gonna change the entire
like
structure.
You'd want to.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't. But they might is a thing. I think this is part of this. Your desire shall be for your husband. I think that doesn't mean what we've always sort of implied that it means.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of means your husband has this, you're going to want it. Your husband has that, you're going to want it. Power, influence, authority, whatever, you're going to want it. You're going to want it. You're going to see that. You see that playing out in society over and over again. But I think your point about the loss of kind of male specific places is absolutely true. I was never a Boy Scout nor like a advocate. I'm sort of an indifferent on scouting generally.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard recently again and again, like how many women are scout leaders. And I'm thinking, what?
Mm.
How, what?
Mm-hmm.
I can all of a sudden like let dad step in and be like Girl Scout leaders? I don't actually think so. And by the way, I wouldn't want you to do that.
Right.
That's a little weird.
Yeah.
But what? It's just like normal for a mom to be a Boy Scout leader now. That will change the dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Like my grandkids go to jiu-jitsu on the mountain, and it's led by this guy. His name's Red. He's awesome. Like, and when my grandkids go, something will happen, my grandson will get hurt or something, I'll walk up to him and say, I hurt my finger. Red will look at him and go, well, I could break your finger. Are you okay? And he's like,
that's awesome.
All of a sudden he's like, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm back doing, like, boys need that.
Yeah.
They need that. They need to suck it up, get up, rub some dirt on it, keep going. Mom is never going to tell you to rub some dirt on it and keep going. Now, maybe my daughter-in-law, who's not going to have 5, she might do that, but I think it's only the influence of having so many kids, and she's sick of hearing her name so much every day. But just in general, that's not going to be the response.
Yeah.
And I love that they get that there.
Yeah. I mean, as you say that, so I don't teach anymore, but I taught for a couple years, here at Trinity, 6th and 7th grade. And if I take the boys in the classroom, they're a handful, and they're frustrating, for the most part. In fact, the girls are much better in the classroom, right? They're going to pay attention.
Yeah, sure.
That's pretty obvious. But if I go to a different situation, if I go to the basketball courts with those boys, they're a blast, right? Like we did a couple recesses, especially closer to the end of the year, where I'm like, let's just go outside, and we play football outside. Great, right? Like, because you're there with the guys, and they act completely differently.
Yeah,
to where in the classroom, it's very differently for different reasons. One, they're sitting versus doing something active, which there's some data points as well. But also, like, they're in 7th grade and they're surrounded by girls, and that's more on the forefront of their mind than
that's
whatever.
Hormonally a challenge.
So like, that's attention. Always present.
I'm 52 and in a classroom of attractive women, it's hormonally challenging to pay attention. Yeah. So I get it.
Yeah. So more spaces.
It's kind of funny. When Caleb, when we were in Carson City, the kids went to the Lutheran school there at Bethlehem. My younger 2 started homeschooling before Caleb did. Caleb went all the way through 8th grade. And the principal there was a guy, Lonnie Cargus. He's great. He'd been there for a long time. And Caleb tells the stories of he and his buddy Carson would be sitting in class in 7th and 8th grade, and Mr. Cargus would walk in and say, you and you come with me. And all of a sudden they're on like ladders throughout the building replacing light bulbs, or out in the back mowing the field or pulling weeds or picking up trash. And it wasn't a punishment. He just he needed 2 guys to go do something, some guy, guy chores. And so he'd pick the 2 guys that he thought could do it and send them off to go do it. Awesome.
There's a school, and I doubt you could look it up. Where is it at? It's not Oklahoma. It's down south somewhere. They're a classical school, boarding school. And I don't know how I stumbled across them, but they wake up at 6. It's all boys. They go and they milk cows. Then I think it's Catholic, so then they have like mass, it's a morning mass. And then they'll different days for different things, but they'll have different like nature-oriented chores, right? So they'll hike to this place and they've got some work, and they'll talk about things on the way.
Sure.
They'll philosophy. Do some work. Yeah, they'll talk philosophy, and then they'll sit down and they'll have whatever it is. Like they've got an academic curriculum, but it's built into doing things with your hands, moving from the outside. I mean, I haven't been there, but it just... That speaks to my 4-year-old son. I can already see that for him. Like if he's doing things with dad, he's listening, he's well-mannered, he's excited, he's engaged. If he's just sitting there and I'm trying to like lecture him, it's very difficult for him to pay attention.
Yeah. I've got a 4-year-old Grant, one of Caleb's kids, could never pay attention for 4 minutes on a specific talk. Yeah. You're always like, look at me.
Yeah. Yeah, but you get him building something, and he's locked
or
in for 2 hours.
In his case, building something or drawing something or cutting something or letting him talk about something, to be honest with you. So,
yeah, 100%. Well, let's move on kind of through this structure here. So then you move on to marriage. Is there anything you want to piggyback on that we've skipped in this kind of line of reasoning?
Just how, the one thing you could say is that marriage rates are at an all-time low, and not just sort of, one of the challenges demographically when you look at marriage rates and childless rates, right, is that there are fluctuations you can look back in history and see fluctuations. And those fluctuations typically correspond to a time of scarcity and or something bad is going on, like war, right? Obviously, type of thing, plague, mass death, that type of thing. And then you can often see at times of where things are more affluent, that things can improve. And this is kind of why you saw like the baby boomers, right? You see a dip prior to World War II, and which has to do with sort of what's going on, Great Depression and all that. And then as you get into the latter parts of World War II, you start to see this baby boom. And then as soldiers come home, America becomes very prosperous, huge boom. Boom only lasts not quite as long as people think it does, but you do see this boom. But one thing you can say about now is that both of these levels are lower than we've seen it at any of the bumps. So the declines are the lowest declines, in other words, that have been recorded. So the marriage rate is lower than it's ever been, at least in America. I think in general, you could say in sort of Western Europe in that too. And then same thing with the birth rates. The birth rates on a sustained basis are lower than they've been. Now in America, they have a harder time with this in America. I don't know why. I think it should be pretty easy to filter out the immigration numbers, but it's harder here because they tend to want to sort of throw in the birth rate of immigrants in there too. One of the things they find out is that once the children of immigrants assimilate like that, like one generation, they're doing what they're doing here. So if the childbirth rate for sort of your normal middle class American here is 0.9,
is that what it is?
Yeah, it's around there.
Jeez.
In one generation, whatever immigrant from whatever country, as long as they're sort of in that class, that middle group class, it's going to be the same.
They come from South America. They were one of 6, but they're going to have one. Yeah.
It's one generation. And so oftentimes you'll hear, oh, well, we're going to be saved by the immigrants. I'm like, probably not long term. Also in these other countries, with the exception really of Africa in a lot of ways, which there's some signs there too, that it's just the birth rate is falling everywhere. So even in places like Mexico, traditionally higher birth rate than here, it's going down there too. And so on the marriage front, the terrifying thing is that people, in their 20s and 30s are just, one, not getting married. And what's scarier are more and more saying they don't want to. So one of the things you have happened in the past is that people would say, I want to get married. This is a classic one. If you were to ask, I think for the longest time, if you were to ask a 17-year-old girl, when you grow up, how many kids do you want to have? Forever, the answer was 3. Like 3. That was the answer. I want to have 3. I want to have 3. I want to have 3. That's changing a little bit. That's going down a little bit. But also saying, do you want to get married someday forever? The answer was, yeah, of course I want to get married. That's definitely changing. More and more people are saying no to that. More and more people who in their 20s aren't married say they don't want to get married, don't ever see themselves getting married. Well, geez, that's kind of terrifying. Especially on the child front, because it's more likely that if you're going to have children, it's going to be when you're married. But what happens is it just gets delayed so long that the longer you delay, the longer you sort of create your own independent life, the harder it becomes for people to see themselves in that other life. In other words, if I'm done all the things right that my parents told me to do, I did well in high school, I went to college, did well in college, got into a master's program, did well in a master's program, got a great internship that led to a great job. I've saved a bunch of money. I've established this wonderful life for myself. It's hard for me to look at it and say why it would be better by adding somebody to it who's just going to maybe disagree with what I want to do on a Friday night. And so that happens more. The childbirth thing is interesting. Again, forever and ever, I want to have 3 kids, but the same thing happens. We fill them up with the other priorities, and by the time they start thinking about having kids, they're 30-ish. By the time you had 1 kid, maybe 30 or 31, 32. By the time you start thinking about having another one, you're already, designated as a geriatric pregnancy. Yeah. By your second kid.
It's like 36 now, isn't it?
I thought it was 35 or 36. 35? Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's in. So that's kind of the point, is that the more we sort of like prioritize other things and delay even the things we say we wanted, the less important those things become, and the scarier they become to have because you're older. Everything gets scarier when you get older, man. You just you think about it more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned earlier that the great evil of kind of the technologies that have made this possible. But, if you think about it in that way, and especially when you talk about like it's even being exported to other countries and stuff, right? Like it started as kind of a rich Western luxury that's not a luxury, but now it's just kind of spreading everywhere. And you mentioned too before the fall, what do we have? We have work, we have marriage, and we have kids.
Yep.
And this is systematically destroying at least two of those three, but it probably ripples over into the third as well.
Yeah. Well, and as a natural offset of that, you have church. That's the other thing I'd say. You have that other estate, right? Your life in the church.
Yeah.
As a family.
And I like your point of, speaking directly to this, to your kids and, to people around you in your congregation or whatnot. I had a professor at Ball State University. So, not a Christian university. And it was like a criminal justice class or something random. But I remember he made a point that stuck with me, and it was, I don't know what we were talking about, but he just kind of stopped and he's like, listen, you guys are all in your like 20s. He's like, in your life, like you're all you can think about is 20s, like going out, having fun, making money, like getting a house, da 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 da.
For me, that was like, I was married in my early 20s. So that was
good for you.
Earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's like that. He's like, what you don't understand, but you need to know is that at some point you're not going to be 20. At some point you're going to be 40 and 50.
Yes.
And he's like, if you don't get married and have kids, the world will pass you by.
Oh, sure.
And you'll be 50 and you'll have your money and you'll want to do something on the weekend. And all your friends are going to have kids that they're preoccupied with. And then at some point their life is going to be revolved around grandkids and you're not going to have a language or even the opportunity to do the things that you think are so important today. And that was just great wisdom of like.
That is great wisdom.
Here's what's coming.
Can you imagine a professor saying that to a class in 2026 at Ball State?
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, because I was 2013, probably 2012.
Yeah. Well, lots changed after 2019.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he better have tenure.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great story. Yeah, I didn't have a story like that. I just always wanted to get married young and have kids.
Good for you.
So I just part of that's probably like having to do with losing my father when I was so young and just sort of wanting that sort of more complete life, and then I always wanted to live close to my family. So like my mom and my grandma, and because that's what I had growing up. I mean, maybe I'm just very nostalgic. And then at the end of the day, that's what I've wanted for my family. It's great. We all live, at least as it stands right now, very close to one another. And I see my grandkids every Sunday at church, if not 3 or 4 times during the week. And in that talk, I said I wanted 9 grandkids, and it'll be 9 by August. So I said at least 9. So, so far by August, my kids will be C students. So
yeah, I think I remember Gifford Grobine talked about that we had him on maybe 2 years ago or so, but he mentioned that being kind of something like that it wasn't a law per se, but it was something that he would really articulate to the kids of like, if someone's like, well, I want to go to college in like Florida State. He's like, I don't know if his answer would be no, but he would have a discussion of like why go out here and be completely disconnected from your entire support system? Like there's this calling for family.
I totally agree with that. That's another thing that became a value that has became a complete cultural value that we in the church have kind of accepted too, that it's very important for you to move away from your family and start that's what that meant. Leave your father and mother and cleave to your wife. That's what that meant. I'm pretty sure if you look at the Old Testament examples, that's not what that meant. It meant actually that you guys are now together, but in most cases they were together within the larger structure of the extended family. And so,
yeah, we miss that. I mean, we're not near family. We're 12 hours or probably 10 hours and 16 hours, and it's not. I wouldn't choose that.
Well, I'd say you don't often choose that especially
it's not different
your first time out, especially you don't choose that in the ministry. I mean, I think that's actually kind of interesting, but and it's hard for us. Like, there's not great work up in Big Bear. I'm not going to say there is. There's not. It's hard, and I can't expect it'll always stay that way. But I love that it's that way now. I'm not going to. What am I supposed to walk around and say I don't love this because not everybody can have it? I do love it. I think it's amazing. We're literally all at church together on Sunday, every Sunday. It's awesome.
And have those other authority figures in a young kid's life too. That's extremely helpful.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. And my kids get a lot of support from my wife and I because they're so close.
Mm-hmm.
So I see my grandkids all the time. It's awesome. Now not everyone can have that. And I'm both sad at the same time and understanding and love it when people make what they can work. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't just discount something like this as valuable too, because not everybody can have it. Maybe it's something that we work for. Maybe if you're afraid you don't want to have kids because you don't think you can do it on your own, maybe first thinking about seeing if you can move closer to your parents so that you'd have a little help
Mm-hmm.
to pull it off. Like, I get that. My wife and I, when we first started having kids, we were young and we were alone down where we were. It was hard.
Mm-hmm.
We had to find friends that could come stay with Caleb when Joshua was born.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We've been in that boat too.
Yeah. Like, it's Caleb's situation where he can just expect my wife and I to be there, or even my mom to be there. Is a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. So with the marriage, do you see any kind of promising signs of any shifts taking place? And then two, do you advocate for anything to help remedy this cultural and this church-wide issue?
No, I don't really see signs of it's changing for the better. I wish I did. The remedy, and I feel like I hope people don't get bored that I sound like a broken record. We have to start telling kids that this is a priority.
Mm-hmm.
We have as we're raising them. I gave a version of this talk. It's either here or Wisconsin. I get the Midwest all mixed up in my head. Not too long ago, and there was a guy afterwards that asked me, he said, well, my parents never told me to get married, but I guess I always assumed that they wanted me to. I'm like, yeah, I get that. That's what I'm kind of saying. We do this by implication. We sort of are married and we believe that implies that we want you to be married. I go, but did they tell you to do well in high school? Yeah. Did they tell you that they wanted you to go to college? Yeah. Did they tell you that they wanted you to get a good job? Yeah. Have they ever talked to you about how they want you to responsibly handle your money? Yeah. Have they ever talked to you about choosing good friends that'll feed your success and not feed failure? Yeah. But they never told you they wanted you to get married? No. I'm like, I'm not saying it has to be the first thing you say. Maybe it should be, but it's not even making it in the list.
Yeah.
Like, if the list is 10 things long, it's not even like number 9. It's just not on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And then it declines and we wonder and we're like, why is this happening? I mean, if you don't say a thing, that thing often doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So for those listening, if you're young, get married, have kids.
Yeah, and speak about marriage honestly. Like, you can't. I mean, one of the big barriers is I just haven't found my soulmate yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the heck is a soulmate?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that mean? That's one of those undefinable modern euphemisms. I'm like, does this even mean anything? Soulmate? It means somebody that I'm going to connect with in such a deep way that we're going to always have the passion for one another. I'm like, oh yeah, that's not real.
Mm-hmm.
Marriage is two sinners living belly to belly together naked for the rest of your life, which means there's going to be some friction.
Yes.
And that friction is kind of built in, which is why also one of the most important things in marriage is not just sort of living together and having sex and having kids, but it's actually the absolution that comes between husband and wife when they sin against one another, because you will never sin against anybody more than you sin against your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be completely faithful your whole marriage. And that statement's 100% true.
Yeah. And I think it's helpful to point out, as you're saying, that that's actually part of the design. Like Paul talks about that in Ephesians 5, right? Where he's like, this is actually a way that God helps sanctify. Yes. Like, this is a way that God's going to form you, because when you're living on your own and you're 25, as I got married at 26, like, have some roommates here or there. They don't care that much about my bad habits. They don't get that perturbed. They get to go to their room.
And they're going to move out someday.
Yeah. You get married, and all of a sudden, all of those bad habits, those surface, and someone is going to speak to you about those. And that's a healthy part of that. Like,
that's when people will tell me, my wife is my best friend. No, she's not. And they go, what do you mean? She's my best friend. She really shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because your wife is not your friend. She's your wife. It's actually a much more important thing than your friend, and it's a much more constant thing than your friend. And just let me give you this one. It's a much more forever thing than your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but best friends kind of come and go in life, and that's totally fine. Like, I've had friends that I was great friends with, didn't talk to them for a while, was great friends with, and then didn't talk to them for a while. And that's totally natural in friendships, and it's one of the ways Lewis kind of describes friendship as kind of walking side by side.
Yeah.
It's not a constant thing. It's not a vow that you take until death do you part. And there's a reason why it's not a vow, because when friendship is about sort of joint mutual interests and people walking side by side together, those mutual interests change, and it's fine that the friendship changes. It ebbs and flows. It's not fine if your marriage ebbs and flows like that. Like, your marriage is going to have tough spots, but you can't just look at your wife and go, I just feel like we're not really connecting the way we did a year ago. So tell you what, I'm going to take a couple years off. I'm going to go buy a Sprinter van. I'm going to travel, do my own thing for a while, snowboard, mountain bike, run, swim, just do my stuff.
Find myself.
Yeah, find myself. When I come back, maybe we can pick it up again. That's not marriage, but that can be friendship, right? So do I think you should have mutual interest with your wife? Sure. Do I think you need to share hobbies? No. Can you share hobbies? You can share activities, sure. But don't think of it like that, because if you do think of it like that, the first fight you get in, you're going to be like, what the heck, man? Like, I can't do this forever.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not what it is. Marriage is, I just told one of my sons and his wife, it's like, listen, you can be married and having a family, and being married and having a family is kind of like just getting up and doing life every day. Like, 80% of being married and having a family is just getting up and doing life every day. That's why in Ephesians 10, Paul talks about good works that God prepared beforehand that we just sort of walk in. They're not like, you're not waking up and really thinking about it. You're just like doing the stuff, right? About 10% of it is going to be full of pain, maybe 5, and anger and sadness, and about 10% of it's going to be full of absolute elation and joy, right? And 80% of it is just going to kind of be doing it. If you're always looking for that, which I think most young people are, and why they're not getting married, if you're just always looking for that elation and joy, you're never going to find it. But if you just kind of get up and do your life, and those moments of elation and joy and absolute satisfaction hit you in the face as a surprise, they're amazing and they're wonderful. It's not because you're looking for them. You're actually just looking to get the stuff done for the day that needs to get done. Get up, eat breakfast, go to work, take the kid to school, pick the kid up from school, go to jiu-jitsu, get the homework done, make dinner, eat dinner, clean up dinner, do the laundry, go to bed. Boom, that's your day. And then all of a sudden in that time, you're driving to jiu-jitsu and you have an amazing conversation with your kids and elation and joy. Or you get a break in your wife and you get to go out to dinner. Somebody watches the kids, gives you a gift certificate to go out to dinner or whatever, and you have an amazing night that you weren't looking for, but some other person who's been God called in your life made it happen for you. Amazing. But if you keep looking for them, like, you're not going to find it. Like, if you keep trying to be happy, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
You just have to do the stuff.
Was it Lewis that said, someone said, what we normally call the disruptions to your life, that's actually life.
That's right.
Like we're like, life is, we're going on vacation in 3 months, or like we're going on a date and da-da-da-da.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, the real life is everything in between.
Have you ever been on vacation as a father? It's not something to live for.
We just did a 9-day trip in Florida with our 4 youngsters, and it was good. I mean, it was good for us to get away. It had been a while, but yeah, I mean, it's still an immense amount of work.
Jeff Dunham that says a dad on vacation is a pack mule that vomits money.
Yeah, that sounds right. We had to see. We were at Disney World when I was a kid. I don't know, maybe like 12 or something. My dad got the biggest kick out of this. We're like, I don't know what park we're at, and like off to the right is this dad, and he's got his clan with him or whatever, and like the kids are like bickering and stuff like that, and the dad just snaps, and he's just like, "We are going to have a good time."
This is Clark Griswold.
Oh yeah, but this was like a real life. He just like snapped. He's like, everyone
that hit in Vacation because it was real.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when my kids were little, Caleb was a skateboarder, Josh was a BMXer. I used to hang out with my buddy Kurt and his kids who were skaters for the most part. And I was a skater. And we took the kids out of school one day and we kind of planned this epic ditch school day. Mm-hmm. We hit every skate park that we could drive to in a day from our home, taking the kids to it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things where you're like, man, this is going to be the best thing ever. It's going to be amazing. On the second skate park, Josh catches an air out of this ramp, lands on the flat top, but there's nothing to stop the flat top. And the next thing is just like a 6-foot drop and just rolls off the drop, busts all his front teeth out. You know, this is what I'm saying. We were chasing the elation of the day, and then there was that interruption, and that interruption was just life. Right?
Yeah.
And the day became much more meaningful once we were triaging Josh and finding the dent. You know, it's all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So then we think about this. I've been thinking about this. I mean, this kind of went into some of the thought, like with Memento as well. But since we've lost brotherhood, right? Since we've lost, like, you know, even, I mean, I've always been blessed. I've had very good guy friends. That's been,
me too.
I think one of my best
honestly,
blessings.
Me too.
You know, but I see that that's an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
But
me too.
One of the jobs for, like, if you have close friends, and I've experienced this, is we exhort each other, right? And, you know, if you don't have that set up, then the only person that's left to exhort you is your wife.
Yeah.
You know, and that should not be the wife. I was getting
some exhorting via text last night, and I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah. But, like, it should be, like, as bad habits happen, like, you need, you know, the Bible speaks this way about brotherhood and sharpening and whatnot, but it's just, like, that's primarily should be the role of the men around you to, like, call out on, these are bad habits, you're not doing this, like.
And have you ever found that, so I found this, that I've had friends who are good friends, but that I've found out aren't brothers. Maybe you could say it that way, because our conversations stop at that. Like,
yes. Yeah. I
can't actually say to you, I think you're doing this wrong in your marriage or in raising your kids, because it will be an end to the relationship. I think that's challenging. And I think, that's gonna be more challenging for men that are growing up now, because I just think that they're not acculturated to the type of masculinity that can say, hey, bro, I think you're really screwing up here. You know, they're not acculturated to the Coach Red who says, your finger's not really hurt, it could be broken, I could break it, get out there and go wrestle. You know, they're not acculturated to that kind of thing. And so it's hard. And I've even personally found that a little bit challenging in some of my friendships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've definitely had two over the years. I mean, I had a group of high school guys, you know, particularly one. I mean, he's been, you know, dear friend for years and years, but, yeah, like that group is strong. We share faith and, you know, whatnot. So I think that relationship became more like brotherhood. A lot of my college friends, good guys, they're a blast, you know, they're good to see. I don't see them as much as I would like to. It'd be good to go, like, have a weekend with them once a year. They're blast. But we're not going to get to that point. We can't speak the same language. We don't have the same belief structure.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously with a lot of the seminary buddies, you know, some of the pastor friends, you know, you have that deep spiritual aspect where there is the opportunities and those things do take place of, like, hey, I'm struggling with this, you know, advice, exhortation and whatnot. And if that takes place there, that should help protect the marriage to where ideally the wife is not, you know, or you could flip it, but in this situation, like, the wife is not on an island where she's the only one dealing with the issues.
Oh, yeah, that's no good.
And you're gonna...
Well, because it creates bitterness and resentment in her in the same way that it won't in one of your buddies. Like, if you come in home and talk to your wife about, especially in a situation like this where you're here, right, and the people that you'd be frustrated with from work are people she knows too, and you talk to her about it, that's really hard for her to hold back her hurt on Sunday morning when she sees them, right? I've kind of the same situation at 15, 17. I can't really, it's not a good thing for me to go home and complain to my wife about somebody at work. She knows them, right? And that's, you need somebody else for that. You need to take that burden off of her so that she doesn't have to hold your burden too. And our wives love us in a way that our friends don't. When somebody hurts us, they're going to, and it's emotional, they're going to be hurt for us, even if you're not that hurt. You're like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
How can you be okay? Yeah.
Well,
but I am.
Yeah.
You know, and in the same, that's not going to happen if you just tell your buddy, like, man, I got this really frustrating situation at work, blah, 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 blah. Your buddy's probably just going to sit there and be like, yeah, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he might give you advice, and then he's going to go about his business. But I mean, it's kind of like C.S. Lewis's explanation on. Sometimes he just has a unique way of going about it, right? But about man being head of the household.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, imagine your neighbor's dog bites one of your kids, or imagine your dog bites one of the neighbor's kids. Who do you want to deal with? You want to deal with the guy that's going to be like, hey, like, so this happened, but like the wife is going to come in furious because she loves and protects her child.
Yep.
You know,
it's inner.
Yeah. And it's by design, and that's good. You want a mother that has, just an emotionally strong.
They call it mama bear for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've thought about that with like the job of the dad is sometimes to be like a grounding wire that like if the kids are misbehaving, mom feels that stress more than I feel that stress. Then that energy's got to go somewhere. So I come home, right?
Yeah,
and she's got it.
I talked about that in Being Dad quite a bit.
Yeah, she's got to throw it on me, and then it's built into my kind of XY chromosome that like, I'm able to take that and just kind of put it away. Like it just kind of it grounds, and then that energy goes away and it's been spent. But if I come home and I throw a bunch of stress at my wife, that stress is going to come back and it's going to blow up me, an hour later because now she's embodying that stress. So so there is that design to where
that's good. I like the grounding wire thing. That's actually helpful.
Yeah. Talk to your wife about things, and I do, but
I
try not to throw all the stress on her. She's got her own stress.
I try not to when I'm amped up. For that exact reason, because it's not usually like I can talk to a buddy when I'm amped up, and that buddy can usually bring me down. Yeah, which is what I need. I don't need somebody coming alongside of me and be like, "Oh, you're at 100. I can bring you to 210, baby." Yeah, like I don't.
I've got 2 X chromosomes, so I can double that ferocity.
I don't need that in the moment, right? Yeah. And so, and it's that's by design too. But you do need other men in your life to for that to happen, right? People that you can trust. Yeah. And it's kind of rare. It's rarer these days. I mean, that was the whole crisis in friendship thing. Most guys felt alone. I mean, that whole thing, it was like 5-6 years ago, came out. And what guys would say is that they used to have those outlets like the lodge or the bowling group or, whatever it was. The people often stated like guys that were involved in search and rescue, I felt like a steep connection. That makes sense. Yeah. But when that was lost, it was guys that felt the loss because now they just had their home and their wife, and the more they just had their home and their wife, the more they felt obligated to just be with home and wife, which is a good thing, right? There was a time in which fatherhood meant you were just sort of the provider and nothing else. That's not good either. But for guys, they would report that they had one or fewer friends that they could tell anything important to, and they meant like life importance, like my wife had an affair on me, what do I do? That type of thing. They couldn't talk, they didn't have anybody that they could talk to outside the home about those things, and they were feeling it. Like the suicide rate in men is high compared to women. High compared to women.
Yeah. I've got a buddy, Adam, and so he's part of the high school group. So there's 5 of us, and we go on a trip every year. We go to a different baseball stadium. Okay. And he always says like he looks forward to it, and by the time it's over, he's ready to leave. He's ready to get out of our presence. But he also always says, I come back a better man than when I left. Good. And like there's that outlet to where you just, you are just with the guys, you talk guy stuff, you do that, but then you come back and you appreciate your family to where if you never have, like you need those little outlets, whether it's a dart league, whether it's jujitsu, different things like that to just go do that,
just refresh. Be clear to all the jujitsu bros out there.
That's your family, not you, not me either. Although I think it'd be fun. I wrestled. I really miss wrestling. If they had adult wrestling, if I could, well, I'd have to do some training or I'd probably get broken, but it'd be fun to get back and do that.
Yeah, not me.
Well, let's take a quick break and then let's jump into some of these back end chapters. Sure. All right, and Bennett says we are back, so for like a 45-minute break.
Was it that long?
So I guess kind of the last couple areas you go in your book are, you kind of focus on dads and grandfathers. I like how you kind of group those together, mothers, grandmothers, and then we'll get into kind of passing down the faith, family together at worship. So let's start with dads, grandfathers. What approach do you take as you kind of, speak specifically to those roles? Yeah, I mean,
as I wrote in Being Dad, the big distinction is just kind of like that you can't be a dad that's kind of a mom with bigger biceps and a deeper voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not the job. It's a distinct role. It's a distinct job. And the same thing is true with grandfathers in the lives of their grandchildren. It's not quite the same as being the grandma and the mom. The big idea between, in this chapters in this book too, is just to say, listen, these are both needed, and we have to stop in our heads sort of like making them the same thing, and saying that if you're a grandfather that's not sort of overly emotional with your grandchildren, that's okay, right? Mm-hmm. That's maybe what your wife's role is, and maybe yours is distinct from that. Maybe there's like one thing that you're meant to teach them, but you still need to be there, and that it's important to have this sort of, when you can, this larger support structure in the family. Because again, when like younger people are asked, what is it, if they have a reluctance to getting married and having a family, what is it? One of the things they'll most often put out there is just that it's hard, right? I think some of that are the unrealistic expectations people put on parenting in general. They think it's got to be this sort of big, complicated thing, and it's really not that big or complicated. Mm-hmm. We make it big and complicated. I think that if we don't give our kids every opportunity that the kid around this corner has, that they're going to be, if we don't pay for their college, all these things, down and down and down. Well, how could I have 4 kids? How could I ever save for that much college? Or you could just tell them if they're going to go to college, they got to figure it out, you know? But they do list in that the support structure. And so one of the things I do point out in the book is that if you could figure out a way to be around grandma and grandpa, or aunts and uncles, or I'll even give you the category in there, like a group of really, really close friends, mm-hmm. They're kind of the friends that are brothers and sisters to you, that this alleviates this burden, and that it's a backup for the faith too. Jim Nestigan always, he gave this talk called Secondary Confirmation, where he would point out that he didn't really have an imagination for things outside of a Lutheran church. So I'd say every Lutheran church in the country is full of frustrated grandparents whose kids have moved away and they don't get to pass on the faith to their grandchildren anymore. And so he proposed that when the church would baptize a kid, that they would say, hey, this child belongs to us now. And we have all these grandparents here who want to give you a night off, and they're going to come in and they're going to sing hymns with their kid, and they're going to read through the Catechism with your child, and they're going to tell them Bible stories and this type of thing, which are, whether they're grandparents doing this with children in the church who don't have nearby grandparents, or whether this grandparents doing this with their own grandkids, it's sort of a special thing that you get. One of the special ways you get to be a grandparent. You're not responsible for like dinner, mm-hmm. or for jujitsu practice, or sometimes in our case, you are responsible for getting them to school and picking them up, but not usually, right?
Yeah.
The day-to-day stuff is not your job. Your job then can be to do kind of the other stuff. You can do special things with your grandkids, including, singing hymns with them, praying with them, reading the Catechism with them, tell them Bible stories. My wife is an amazing storyteller with my grandkids. My kids all say, if you want your kids to learn how to read, send them to my wife, which is funny because she's not a big reader herself, but she does that. And she does that by telling them stories and getting animated into it. And there's a secondary verification when your grandfather comes in and kind of tells you something meaningful that your father has told you, but in his own way too. Mm-hmm. Like, men do this. Well, your dad's told you that, but he told you this in this way, and now your grandpa gets to put his spin on it, and you're getting it twice. Like, what a backup. Mm-hmm. And if you can be around for that, the more you can be around for it, I think it's good. It's a good thing. So the chapter just points out some of the differences between what men and women do in that role, and just how important both of them are. Same thing with moms and dads. The love of a dad is not quite the same as the love of a mom towards kids, but God designed them as such so that they're complementary. Mm-hmm. Much like, law and gospel.
Yep.
And so that kind of comes out in it. And then I think there's a big part of that is involved with passing down the faith. When we did Jim Nestigan's Festschrift. I was insistent that they work into the artwork a little boy on a tractor with his grandfather. Because Jim used to say, I first learned the catechism to the rhythm of my grandpa's John Deere tractor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he would sit on his tractor with his grandpa, and his grandpa would go through the catechism with him. Now, that's not going to the catechism class. That's not making sure that their memorization work is done by Wednesday night. That's not like, you know, making sure that everything that needs to be required to get confirmed has been happening. That's just sitting on the tractor with your grandpa, listening to the catechism in the rhythm of that offbeat engine.
Mm-hmm.
How amazing. Like, and Jim never forgot that. Jim would tell that story until he died, you know, and that's the grandparents can bring that energy in a way that parents can't because of how much responsibility they have for the kids.
Yeah. I like that in a couple of different ways. I mean, one, we do live hyper like segmented lives.
Yeah.
And we're not quite in that stage yet, but you can see that with families that have older kids, right? Where it's like you wake up, you do breakfast, rush off to school, pick up from school, go to this sporting event, you know, on this evening you go from the sporting event to catechism class. So like,
right.
So that's where like there's this little sliver there where there's some kind of theological learning, but if it can be intertwined into the normal flow where it's a conversation at the dinner table or a book in the evening, like if these things can be integrated, that's what life really is. Life isn't just these scheduling blocks. It's just doing the types of things that you have to do to manage your household and such.
But there's a lot of, I hate saying this almost these days because there's data for everything, but data that will show that when faith is integrated more and more into the daily life of people, they stay in the faith.
Mm-hmm.
Much more so than if it's just, that's only something I did on Sunday morning or for 2 years on Wednesday when I was in confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
That the more this is integrated into their lives, the more it becomes sort of just part of the movement of everyday life, the more likely they are to stay in the faith. And you can get that, you know, faith comes by hearing. The more you're hearing it, the more the Holy Spirit is there working through the power of the gospel to not just engender, but to strengthen that faith and to keep in the faith.
Mm-hmm.
And the more people you can have around your kids that are speaking and preaching that gospel to them, the better it is. Parents, awesome. Grandparents, awesome. Aunts and uncles, awesome. People at church, awesome. Friends, awesome. Just like wherever you can put a +1 on that number, the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So looking at dad's grandfathers, mother's grandmothers, is there like one or two things that you can say that it looks like this type of parenting, grandparenting falls towards that gender?
Sure. It's going to be just like you said when you were with your kids. Like on the grandfather side, it's going to be doing something specific. Like when you go do when you hang out with your grandpa, it's probably because he's doing something and you're there doing it with him, or he's taking you and you're doing something, right? Mm-hmm. This is sort of like the thing. When I'm with my grandkids don't usually just come over to hang out with me. Mm-hmm. They do come out all the time and hang out with my wife. And they sort of can just kind of make things up to maybe fill the time. Maybe they're just sitting on the couch talking. That doesn't really happen a lot with me and my grandkids. My wife, it happens all the time. Maybe they're sitting on the couch talking and decide to get up and play a game of Uno or, you know, bake some muffins or something like that. When I'm with my grandkids, it's like, hey, can you take them to go do this? Or, hey, I'm working on my truck today. Why don't you send Emerson over so he can learn to take the wheels on and off the truck? Mm-hmm. That type of thing. And I think that's totally oriented that way. And I think it works that way. I'm not good at just hanging out with anybody. You know, I have to have something to talk about if I'm going to just sit around and talk with somebody, some common interest. Mm-hmm. Well, you're probably not going to have a lot of common interest with your like 6-year-old granddaughter if you're me. Mm-hmm. But you can create some of those. My granddaughter and I swim, right? We go do this thing. It's hard for her. She wants to be a good swimmer. It's hard. There's no pool on the mountain. So every once in a while when I can take her with me to go down and swim, that's what we do. Mm-hmm. And it's a great connection for us. So I think it's the same as what you said with your kids and you and your wife. It's give me a job and I'll try to do really well at it. Mm-hmm. You know, But I kind of need that too. I kind of need to know what's on me. Same thing with I think grandfathers too. I think some grandfathers struggle because nobody's told them it's their job to do this with the kids.
Yeah, and they probably have all these hobbies and they don't necessarily make that connection that it's like, it's not that I have to stop doing the things that I do to go just hang with the grandkids. It's like, you know, if you have a farm or something, that's obviously great, you know, or awesome. Like if you're, you know, but I'm going to go do these things and, you know, we're going to cut down some tree limbs and like, you can help me. We're going to tie the rope. You hold onto the rope. I'm going to go up there and cut and we'll chat and it'll be good memories.
Yeah. I mean, we remodeled our entire house and grandchildren were all in and out helping me with, I mean, usually the older two, but in and out helping me with that as we did it.
So tell me what you think about this. I was talking with a friend about this, Matt, and I don't know, I haven't done like research on this, but at least it seems this way. Well, there's been a little bit. I remember there was a little study on kind of the West, and then Italy is kind of an exception to this in that it seemed like historically speaking, like Stecker, I think means something like stopper. Like I think at some point we were like plungers or whatever, plungers or something. Right. So dad does this, grandfather does this, and it's kind of assumed grandson's going to do this. And we've kind of repulsed at that, right? We have this idea of, you know, Johnny, what do you want to do? You want to be an astronaut? You could be an astronaut, right? What's dad? He's a theologian, you know, or whatnot. I mean, the Preußes are kind of an example of this. Where it's like,
absolutely.
What were all those boys doing? Those 11 boys, I think, right? They're with Rolf and they're at the dinner table. and I've talked to Christian about this. He's like, yeah, like my dad wasn't really a handy guy, and I'm not a handy guy either. But like we talked philosophy at the dinner table, right? So it was very natural for them to step into the role of their father. Whatever you are as a dad or a grandfather, that should be a natural handing over. And it's not expected as if, here's the rule, you have to do this. But my son is going to be exposed to theological discourse, you know, the life of the church. Like that's going to be second nature to him in a way that somebody that did not grow up with a dad as a father or a pastor as a father, you know, same with an engineer, someone who's handy, farmer. So how much of this is we've kind of lost this expectation of it is kind of my job to pass on my vocation, not as a rule that my son has to do this, but it would be a real shame if my son, after living with me for, 18, 20 years and beyond,
despised what I do.
Yeah, doesn't even understand, the things that his father does. So my kids are young, but I've appreciated that as, on the line of things have grown. I'm like, as they get older, I really want them involved. I want them to, they know Bennett, and it's like, come and see what the recording studio is. Hey, look at this video we just worked on. Why are you doing that, Dad? Well, like, we're doing this because this does this, and it's like just cultivating that in them. Because for me, how awesome would it be? You get to experience this, right? But I would love if like my daughter grows up and, hopefully she's a mother first, but if she wants to like, if she enjoys this, maybe she can help with some branding or something like that. Yeah. If my son could grow up and take over on the line or something like that, or just, as you've done, bring him into the ecosphere so that you can work together.
That's a full expectation on my end, by the way, that at some point I get to peace out and Caleb just takes over.
Yeah. And that's not nepotism. That's how it should work, right? Yeah, I mean, if he's unqualified, he's unqualified, but he should be, if he's following in, he should be, he should know more things than most other people out there, as far as the craft goes. And that's a beautiful thing. My younger son says he believes that, and it's not, you can never say 100% with these things, that he kind of got one side of me and Caleb kind of got the other side of me. So our dinner table was philosophy and theology and ethics and worldview. It was all those things, but it was also cars and guns and building and the importance of being able to work with your hands and do things. And so I've got one son that's a trades guy, and I got one son, and Caleb, who's sort of very much theologian, right? Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is neither one of them hates the other thing either. Like my son Joshua is very interested in theological conversation, loves having them, and Caleb can do things with his hands. And so you sort of have all that going around, and I love that neither one of them despise it. And we have lost this, hey, my father did this, so this is a natural end to me being good at this too. We've completely shied away from that. We've overplayed nepotism 100%. We've done that in the church too. I mean, one of the funny things is I think more people need to look at their, kids and say, I want you when you grow up to be the same faith that your family is. Mm-hmm. We've
stayed in this faith because we think this is right, that this is the correct exposition of the scriptures here, right here. In our case, Lutheran, right? I would love it if you grow up that you marry a Lutheran and that you stay Lutheran and that I have a bunch of little Lutheran grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. You know, and the same thing with work. It's very important, and we've lost that. And I think we're less for it. It's why everybody has to move away to get the job, because the job really is away. It's not their fault. What they studied to do isn't here, it's there. So they have to go there to do it because that's what they're going to do. And it's, you know, part of that's probably back to sort of the loss of factory work and that type of thing too. I mean, I think of my father-in-law and my wife growing up in Chicago, my father-in-law working for Electromotive, and all, you know, pretty easy to step into those kind of GM Ford type jobs. I know that's big in, you know, Michigan too, but we don't have that so much anymore. And at the same time, we have sort of this cultural value of doing your own thing. Do your own thing. Don't let your parents determine your future. What? Of course they're going to determine your future. You're half him and half her, and you grew up in their house.
Yeah.
Like, give me a break. You know, there's this sort of whole parent abolitionism thing coming up where if your parents are at all toxic, you have to ditch your parents for the community. It's just all this Marxist garbage. But no, you make a really good point. That stuff's really important, and we've lost that. I love that Caleb works for 1517. I love that not only does he do it, but that he's really good at it. And that he's smarter than me, and eloquent, more eloquent than me. And I think it's amazing. And I'm proud of it. I'm also proud of my other son, Joshua, for what he does. I say in the book, he was a welder. He made cabinets. And then he got a really, really good job with the solid waste disposal for the city. And so now he does that, and he loves it, and he's good at it. And he shows up to work every day, and he welds the trucks when they're broken, and it's awesome. You know, I love that. Our daughter is a mom first, and she does some video editing for us at 1517, and it's great. It's amazing.
Yeah, the fact that you're able to share that, and you know, you can talk with your daughter not just about, hey, how's life going on over there, like what's going on, but rather like you actually have topics of interest, which should be natural for a family.
Yeah,
right?
My daughter's a huge reader, and so we're always like, read this, read this, read that. In fact, most of the books I read, I get from my daughter.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, passing on, I guess we can kind of finish with the passing on of the faith. Maybe two aspects. One. And we've touched on some of this, but what are some very practical things that families like my own, you know, or Caleb's, you know, where we've got young kids, what kind of things should we be integrating into our life and should be on the forefront of our mind? And then maybe the secondary one is how do churches support families and kind of articulate and say out loud the things that they're not going to necessarily just intuit.
This is going to be really boring because it's super basic. And for people like me, you, and Caleb, it's going to sound just like, oh yeah, well, duh, because it's already part of your habit, right? But we have to know, and if you sort of get outside of like the heavily catechized, even Midwest in a lot of ways, you got to know that outside of, you know, whatever little bubble you're in, that this is just not the reality. That most people, even that say they're Christians or say they belong to a church, have an average rate of attendance of like once every 2 months. So when I say like the first thing that you can do is bring your children to church and attend regularly. And by regularly, I mean every Sunday it's reasonably possible to attend. And now again, you're a pastor, so you're like, and we're heavily involved with our church in Big Bear. So we're all like, But for most of the world, that's crazy. It's enough to say you're a Christian. It's enough to tell your kids, yeah, we're Christian. And okay, we went to church. We're going to go to church this week because we have time. Nobody's got practice this week. Nobody's got a game this week. So we can go to church this week. That all those other things are noise on Sunday morning. And the only thing that's real meat, in a lot of ways, is designed to get you through the rest of the week of noise, is to come and hear God's word, to hear the gospel preached into your ears and receive his gifts. Right. So it starts with getting your babies baptized as early as you can. And then regular church attendance can't be overlooked. And then I'd say, especially for
real quick on the church attendance, I would suspect that the difference between 95% attendance, let's say whatever, you have a couple sick Sundays or whatever, 95, 98%. The difference between that and 50% is much greater on the, as far as the actual passing on of the faith versus 50 to 25. In other words, if you're at 95, you have sent the message that this is what we do.
Yes.
And there's an exception. As soon as you jump down to something like 50, it's not like, well, we do 50%. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's like, well, you've taught your kids.
It's an F in school, but okay.
Yeah. And exactly. I think it probably would work that way too, as far as the transmitting of the faith of like, you've taught your kids this is something we could do.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different thing.
We do half the time-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's when it's convenient. And if that's the case, well, there's going to be a lot of times when they're in the 20s where it's very inconvenient. And if you do it when it's convenient, you will not do it very often.
This has hit me hard recently because our church is so small. Like, our church is so small that when somebody's not there or even late, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's uncomfortable. And it's noticed, not in a way where you're like, those sinners, they're not at church, but more in a way like, wow, we really miss that you're not here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it really is better for us as a family, church family, when you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when we're all here, it's better. I say that as I'm going to make it on Sunday. I'm flying home on Saturday. But, and again, there's got to be a lot of like forgiveness in here for people who have developed not the habit, who you're trying to encourage to have the habit. You don't want to just say, do this or your kids aren't going to be Christian. And bomb. The people look back on it and they go, oh, I didn't do that. And come on. Okay. Christ's death and resurrection covers everything. Mm-hmm. Horrendous stuff, mostly a lot of self-righteousness, but at the end of the day, this too, man. It's just, but at the same time, we can say, hey, this is the ideal. This is what's given to us in the text as what should be happening. When we look at the third commandment, we can hear Luther say, do not despise teaching in his word. And we can take that to heart. And that's what I'm saying here is like, do not despise teaching in his word. His word is your life. His gifts in the sacrament, those are your life. You have a week that assaults you with sin, death, and the power of the devil. And you come this one time and you're literally released from that in the words of absolution, literally handed over the forgiveness of sins in the sermon, literally handed over new life in the sacrament.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you want for an oasis in the desert every Sunday? Because your life is a desert, right? And the oasis are God's gifts given to you in the service. And do not despise those things, if at all possible. And your kids will learn that they are just part of life. And one of the other things, somebody asked me this recently. I said, when I grew up in a small church, not as small as our church, but in a small church. And I don't ever remember a time when I didn't feel like First Lutheran Church Palmdale was just like an extension of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, I didn't show up at church and feel like I was somewhere other.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was at this place that belonged to me and I belonged to it. Well, why was that? Well, my mom was on Altar Guild, and at least twice a month we were there on Friday night, and she and my grandma were setting up communion, and I was running around in the church and in the narthex and in the fellowship hall. And my uncle was an elder and a trustee. And so every time that there was an all congregation anything, cleanup day, let's get ready for the Easter sunrise service day, we were there for all of it. And everybody else I knew was there. All my friends were there too. And there weren't, again, it was a small church. It was not like there were 30 of us, but the 3 or 4 of us that were there. And that kind of outside of Sunday morning integration into the daily life of the church helps too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think one of the things that has happened is that as churches become bigger, the whole like structure of making the church work from day to day becomes professionalized and less reliant on the members of the congregation other than their money. And then it becomes some place that they just come on Sunday because that's what they're paying for.
Yeah.
I don't love that.
That's a good take.
Like, I'm not sure how helpful or not helpful that is.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a Lutheran grade school. My kids went to a Lutheran grade school. That's not possible for probably most people, but boy, man, the catechesis that we got through that process was pretty phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really was. I think that's all very important. We have family members around you worshiping every Sunday, like extended family members around you, hearing your grandma sing hymns, hearing your grandfather pray, hearing your uncles pray and sing hymns, and your aunts, and, you know, babies being passed around, you know, this, because it might stay quiet with this one for 10 minutes, you know, and on and on. This whole movement, I know it happens a little bit in Lutheran churches, but I've mostly seen it in evangelical churches where you send children out during the sermon.
Yeah, the children's
or children's church.
Yeah, children's church.
Holy moly, free holies. I think that's not good. Like, they need to be in there with you hearing the word of God. How do you answer their questions about what they learned that day if you're not hearing the same thing? I think it's very important that we worship together as families. Not separately.
Yeah, it's not quantifying, like how much did I get out of the service? Well, I was able to focus on, you know, X percentage of the sermon. So it's like I can quantify what I got out of the service, you know, to whereas, you know, for my wife, we've got 4 little kids. I'm up front. You know, we don't talk about my sermons quite as much as we used to because my wife only hears.
Oh yeah.
So because I mean, she's taking care of little kids and stuff, but the point is that they're there and they're present, and you're in God's house, and God's blessings are washing over you, His grace, all this kind of stuff. But then it cultivates. I mean, I can remember this as a kid of like, I mean, I was kind of a ornery and, you know, a little bit rebellious kid, but my dad was a pastor, and regardless of what I would say, like, church always had like a certain feeling. And whenever I go back home and I go into that church,
feels like home.
That feeling comes back. And it was home. It was a wonderful place. And that type of memory and imprint is something that is very difficult to shake.
Yes.
So even if you're like,
it makes it so that you can't imagine not being in a church on a regular basis.
And when you don't, because I mean, in college, I mean, I was probably ebbed and flowed, but probably more like a 40 to 50%. You know, I made excuses not to be there, but I always felt guilty and good, like that I felt guilty. And then when I would go, I felt fantastic, right? But it was such an imprint that I had to push hard to not be there every Sunday, and eventually that recoils back to whereas if that home imprint's not there, then you have to push really hard just to get there, and then it feels natural when you're not there. I'm
going to stick to this, and I know everybody's going to disagree with me. On the whole, when kids grow up, they kind of do what you told them to do. I know it's like, oh, everybody's a rebel. It's actually not true. They kind of like for the most part, hit the level of expectation that you set for them on most things. Like they do. I already said that with telling them to get married and have kids. You can kind of see the same thing with like when you grow up, it's very important with your family that you find a good congregation that you're a part of and become an active. I say this in the book, I even say this when you get married before you have kids. One of the first jobs you and your wife has as a couple is to find a congregation, become an active member of that congregation, so that as a couple, you get acculturated to being part of a faithful congregation, so that when you start raising your kids in that congregation, you're already familiar with what it feels like as just you two. And that incorporating kids into it is natural, and that everybody has seen that this young couple is here. They're part of our congregation. Eventually they're going to have kids. And when their baby comes, we rejoice with them as a family of God.
The grandparents are natural at that point because they've known you for whatever.
Or just people at the church.
Or I mean like the new grandparents, the grandparent type figures in the church. They're so excited because, you know, Susan's pregnant. You know, here comes the baby. You know, can we hold the baby? The church is putting
on a baby shower for your wife. Everybody is looking forward to receiving this child into the family of God at their baptism. And then have your children, whenever possible, baptized at your church by your pastor. Come on now. Enough.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm into that. Yeah.
Enough of this. Everything is special out here. Got to go to here. My friend. I'll do the same thing with marriages, but I'm on a campaign to get weddings to happen in churches again.
Yeah.
I'm on come on, we can do this. We can all get married in churches, people.
Yeah.
We're Christian. We can get married here. We don't have to get married in the woods and all over the place.
The mountaintop.
And my kids did all those things, but yeah. I didn't set the expectation though. To be honest with you, I never said that.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the studies show, and I've heard different numbers, but if dad goes to church and you go regularly,
that's being dad.
Your kids are going to go to church.
It's 70 percentile. That's the first chapter of being dad.
Mm-hmm.
If your father is the one that is leading the faith charge in the house, you're in the high 70s that you will grow up in that faith and stay in that faith for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if people want that one, yes, buy Being Family, buy many copies. It's a study guide too. But Being Dad, that's what Being Dad does. I mean, that's what made Being Dad the popular book that it became.
Yeah, this is statistically important, and here's how you do it. Yeah. One last thought on this one, because we were talking about this. I've been kind of deep diving vice and virtue and kind of the historical categories. I'm very much I kind of love that. And the question is, how do you cultivate virtue? And obviously, there's a lot of different things, but there was one aspect historically that they would talk about that I thought very much applied to the idea of going to church. And that, okay, let's say you're a family that is not going to church regularly, right? And you kind of want to, but you're in that 50% category. It's
we invite a lot of people like that to church.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly. I know a bunch of those, right? So what do you do? Well, you have to, one thing you can do is to try to dangle a little bit of a carrot. So you say okay, for the next 3 months, we're going to go to church every Sunday. And when that's done, we're going out to breakfast or we're going out to lunch, something that it's admittingly, if you're not used to this, it's going to be a little bit of a discomfort. No, you're not going to show up for that first Sunday and be like, this was amazing. Isn't everyone so happy? But so put a little carrot at the end and say, we do that, then we go out to eat. We do that, we go out to eat. And at some point, you get a little cognitive, you start to look forward to that. Maybe you look forward to it because of the meal after the fact, but eventually that longing will switch to the service itself. I mean, it's a great little trick.
I hope it works. I mean, we at our little church, we're kind of on this we get a lot of people to visit. People that say they grew up going to church. Lots of them, actually. The number of people that we know kind of between all of us in our little area of the world who were maybe even the children of missionaries and stuff like that, who just they don't go to church now. They're married or not married or getting married, maybe have a couple kids. And what happens is you find out that nobody ever made a decision to stop going to church.
Mm-hmm.
They never just said, enough with that place. I'm not doing that. In fact, most of these people would still say, I'm a Christian. They'll give you the generic, I believe in God. I always kind of want to know what that means, but whatever. I believe in God. I grew up Christian. And then you get the, it's just, that's our one day. The one we get a lot is, that's our one day when we don't have anything on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I get that because I don't have a day with nothing on the schedule. So yeah, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
That's our one day with nothing on the schedule. And you are always kind of looking for what's the hook? What's the hook? I think one of the hooks is that for most of these people we talk to, the fact that they say they are a Christian is important to them, right? And I struggle with the fact that they could be faithful, because I think what brings faithfulness is access to the preached word of God and the work of the Holy Spirit through that preached word. That's the sustaining power of God right there. So I struggle with that, but they want their kids to think they're Christian too. And the reality is they're just not going to, because you think that because you did grow up going to church and hearing the word. And even though you stopped, you maybe haven't done it for a decade, you still think that because of all those years that you did, and your kids have never had that.
Mm-hmm.
Kids have never had that. So they're growing up, as far as this aspect of their life goes, aimlessly. They don't know the power of God into salvation that comes through the proclaimed word because you've never exposed them to it.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's a ripple effect to that. I mean, we've got a friend, and so she's married, great guy, and he is, great guy. And, she kind of moaned in the dating world before, especially in their area, maybe a little more similar to California. It's just it's really tough to find a good guy. Well, she found a good guy. And then they were talking, they had their first, and they were kind of talking about he grew up in the church. She really didn't, so she's like, well, is that important to you? And he's like, no, it's okay. Da, da, da. And I'm like, why he was a good guy? Like, yeah, he's not going to church today, but like he grew up going to church. Like you're discounting something that was extraordinarily important in his formation. Yeah. You're baffled that you finally found a good guy when all the other ones around don't.
I don't know why he's so different than all the other ones.
Yeah. So is that important to pass on? No. Okay. Well,
do you want kids? Yes. Do you want sons? Do you want them to be good guys?
Yeah. Do you want him to be like, he still has muscle memory, even though he's not going, he still has muscle memory just for his character, just for the things that he values that was imprinted on him from an early age.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm more interested that every single one of these children go to church so that they're exposed to the word and they come to the faith. I'll take the character as a secondary.
Mm-hmm. It's thrown in. Yeah. Not a guarantee, and it's not perfect.
I'll take it. Like, I'll take it. Do we need more men of good character in the world? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
But here's the place to start if you want that. Like,
and do I think that this is more likely that they are going to develop into good character through this exposure to church? Yeah, I think it's a great way. Do I think there are some secular things that could develop good character? Sure, there are. The one thing that the church gives you is the gospel. Like that the world can't give you is the gospel. And it's the one thing that saves you, right? That literally saves you from sin, death, and the power of the devil. And everybody wants that for their kids. They want the character too. They want the community too. They want the support too. They want, being around other people that are sort of not always just thinking about the next party that they're going to go to. They want all those things. But as Christians, we have to know that, and this is a big part of the book, we want those children there to pass on the faith to them, the one true saving faith in Christ Jesus, and that we'll take all of these other things as ancillary benefits, and I will take them. I will take them every day and twice on Sunday. But I want these kids to come to the faith. There has to be kids for kids to come to the faith. I want them baptized. I want them, the word of God splashed over their head. I want it showered over them through the sermons. I want it put into their mouth at their first communion. I want to hear the pastor forgive their sins in the name of Jesus. That is what's going to change their heart. And it's only then that you can actually start talking about other character-related things in a meaningful way. And when we discount the one place that happens on a consistent basis, could some of that happen in family conversations? Absolutely. But it's not scheduled to happen. Like, it is. There's one place where you show up and it's going to happen. It's going to happen here every Sunday. Come back again next Sunday. We'll do it again.
And it's like prayer. Everyone always says, well, I want to pray more. It's like, well, is it on your schedule?
Yeah.
Are you going to pray tomorrow morning? And if it's not, if you just think things are just going to happen, like, well, we don't go to church, but like we talk about Christianity.
It's talk about God with my kids.
Yeah. Did you do it last night at dinner? Or do you do it before bed? Well, no, it's just kind of when it happens. Like, no, that's just sentimentality and wishful thinking. That's right. Like, you actually have to schedule these things, which is where church is a good starting point. Like, again, it's scheduled.
If one is like having a family by implication, the other one is having faith by implication. That's not how it happens.
Yeah.
It happens by proclamation. Proclamation happens, like, you don't even have to be good at it yourself. Like, we pay people to do it.
Yeah.
Just show up and let them do their job.
Yeah.
Hey, do I think you should do it too? Yes, of course I do. But there's a place where we actually hire people to do this. And when we show up, they're happy. They're happy that you're here.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, thanks for showing up today.
Yeah.
Like, you're not doing anything of benefit to them, and they're still happy that you're here, and they're doing all these things, being the mouthpiece of Jesus to benefit to you, and they're still happy you're here.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool if once a week there was someone that was like, you know what, I would just really love to teach your kids piano. I know you don't know how to do it. I'll just do it for free. Just come. Yeah. I'll teach them piano.
Why? I love piano. I love sharing the gift of piano. You have guys here that love sharing the gift of Jesus and aren't going to charge you to come get what they give. I mean, you should support your tithes and offerings as well, but like, if you're just getting back into it, no one's gonna look at you sideways if you're not giving an offering right off the bat.
Yeah, in fact, I've heard the advice before. You could probably take it or leave it, but there's at least some truth in it. Of like, someone comes back to church, like, don't even think about giving money for 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's good for you. God, you know, it's going to help you understand that the possessions are not
part of habit.
Yeah. But yeah, for the first, like, just go and receive and, you know, then cultivate that. But don't let that be a barrier where, like, well, I'm going to be guilty if I go to church and I don't Like,
yeah, they're going to pass around that plate.
Yeah.
It's going to feel weird. More churches should go to like QR codes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody has cash anymore anyway. You're gambling on like the 5 people that have a checkbook or cash with them.
Yeah. Whenever we go to like a dinner or something, you know, put on by the church, I'm always guilty because I'm like,
yeah,
Ray, like, you had any cash? Like, I had cash. Like,
I'm a big believer in those QR codes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts that you want to?
No, I mean, thanks for having me on. I hope people check it out. Again, most of it is just stuff that I've been thinking about and teaching about for, like, say, the last 5 years or so that I kind of got talked into putting into one. It's got a study guide in it, so it could be used in congregations like this. I think it's a super easy read. I really tried to take into account kind of people's modern reading habits and that they're not really often in it for a long haul. And this book is not a long haul. You could probably read each chapter in 10 minutes per chapter, not the whole book.
Yeah.
Type thing. So yeah, I mean, I think if you're kind of wondering, like, I don't propose to have every answer in there. And most of it is about, hey, this is what I think is a good idea, and here's some absolution for when you fail, because you're going to. Every chapter ends on a bit of absolution for when you're not doing these things, which the guy who wrote the Magnus person who wrote the foreword was really thankful for. When I asked him to do the foreword, he's like, I don't know, I don't feel like we did a good job at this. And so he read it, he's like, okay, I can do it because there's absolution everywhere. I was like, okay, go for it. But most people, when they're kind of discouraged about family, they're discouraged for a bunch of fallacious reasons. Like, you know, wow, people who are married seem so unhappy. I've got the receipts in there that's not the case. People with kids always seem like they're busy and upset. I got the receipts in there. That's not the case. Like, on the secular side and on the side of faith, like on the secular side, you'll be more fulfilled whenever possible by being married and having a family and just kind of living the life, the daily grind of the life with the family. You'll be happier, be more fulfilled. You'll be more successful. You'll have a better intimate relationship, the whole 9 yards. And on the faith side, this is certainly the way to passing down the faith. This is the way that God intended the faith to be handed down. That's what he tells Adam and Eve. You think he's telling Adam and Eve just to have kids and multiply and fill the earth for the sake of filling the earth? He wants us to fill the earth with little people that'll be baptized into Christ Jesus, and they'll be raised in the faith of Christ Jesus, and that will also come together in the name of Christ Jesus, and we'll get married, and we'll have other kids and be baptized, and over and over and over again until he comes again. Like, evangelism is amazing. Like, I love evangelism and apologetics, where I started out in this, but our reality is that your greatest act of evangelism that you'll ever perform in your entire life, the most successful one, will likely be to your children. Period. The end. And that's the case for most people. Most people aren't going to go knocking on doors and saying, have you heard about my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? If you do, awesome. But you could pretty easily do that over a lifetime with your kids.
Well, Scott Keith?
Yeah.
We should go get some lunch.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah, thanks. Cheers.